Good afternoon and welcome to the unofficial Soccer Saturday live from Solent University. My name's Millie Payne and I'll be guiding you through an afternoon filled with football, all the way from the Premier League down to the Wessex League. It's a big day as well across the EFL, with so many teams battling it out for promotion, playoff spots and scrapping at the bottom to avoid relegation. So I'll bring you through those games in a moment, but alongside me I've got four of the finest pundits who'll bring you updates from the top flight and a very interesting title race lower down in the divisions. First of all, to my left, we have a man who, last time he was on the show, claimed he had a better man bun than Darwin Núñez. But now he thinks he has a better perm than Harvey Elliott. Freddie Dorman will be covering Brighton versus West Ham for us. Next up, gutted, I'm sure, to be covering the game where his hometown's biggest rivals could be relegated, is Joey Rapley on Newcastle versus Ipswich. Our final Premier League game on the panel is Wolves versus Leicester, which will be brought to you by Jamie Somerville, who I don't think has worn this suit since the red wine incident. If you know, you know. And this has been such a big story over social media, so we had to have someone covering the six-way battle for promotion in the National League South. It's the ever-enthusiastic Freddie Kilby, who will be bringing you all of those games today, live updates. Let's start off with team news then, shall we, Freddie? Big game sort of in the battle for European spots for Brighton. Could you run me through the team news?
Yeah, so thanks, Millie. It's 10th versus 17th. Neither of the two have won in their last 5 games, so on terrible runs of form. West Ham, not much to play for, but like you said, Brighton, very faint hopes of Europe, dependent on how the English teams do in Europe. Brighton, they made 3 changes. João Pedro, Minter and Van Heck are all out, so their lineup reads as Verbruggen in goal. Estepinian at left back with Dunk, Vifa and Hinshelwood. 2 CDMs are Yari and Baleba. And then March returns to the team with O'Reilly, Adingra and the ever-present Danny Welbeck up top. As for West Ham, also 3 changes. Vladimir Kufau, Soler and Folkrug are all out. So their lineup reads as Areola, Kilman, Tobido and Mavropanos as the back 3. The 2 flying fullbacks will be Emerson and Wan-Bissaka. In front of them, Ward-Prowse and Paquetá, with Kudos, Souček and Jarrod Bowen up front.
Thank you very much, Freddie. And moving on to a big game at St James's Park, where Ipswich will be relegated if they fail to win at Newcastle or West Ham avoid defeat at the Amex. Joey, could you run us through the team news for Newcastle and Ipswich?
Yeah, of course. So just one change to the Newcastle side after their 4-1 loss last week to Aston Villa, and that comes with an injury issue for Joelinton, missing out with a knee problem. So Joe Willett's coming into the midfield to replace him. So Pope is in goal with Trippier, Shah, Byrne and Livramento the back 4. The midfield 3 of Guimaraes, Tonali and Willock. And the front 3 remaining the same with Murphy, Isak and Barnes. As for Ipswich, they make 4 changes today. One of them enforced after Leif Davis's red card against Arsenal. Other than that, it's Burgess in for Tuanzebe, Taylor in for Kajust, and Delap is back leading the line. So their lineup today is Palmer in goal, a back 4 of Greaves, Burgess, O'Shea and Woofenden, with Taylor and Morsey in the pivot, Clark, NCCO and Johnson in behind Liam Delap.
Thank you very much, Joey. And moving on to our final Premier League game on the panel today, Jamie Somerville, could you please bring us the team news for Wolves against Leicester at Molineux?
Of course. So just 2 changes for the Wolves squad today. Jose Sarr in for Daniel Bentley, obviously got injured in the warm-up in the last game against Manchester United. And Matt Doherty at centre-back for Santi Bueno. So there's Jose Sarr in goal, a back 3 of Matt Doherty, Emmanuel Agbadou and Totti Gomez. Wing-backs of Ryan Aït-Nouri and Nelson Semedo, with João Gomez and Andre in midfield. Marco Minezzi and Mateus Cunha in the 10 and Strand Larsen up front. And for Leicester, it's just the 1 change. So in goal, Mads Hermansen, fullbacks, Ricardo Pereira and Luke Thomas, Conor Cody and Wout Faes. And then in midfield, you've got Bakary Soumaré, Wilfred Ndidi, Bobby Decordova-Reid, Bilal El-Khanous, and then the 1 change, Facundo Buonanotte, with the ever-present Jamie Vardy up top.
Of course, the big news this week coming out that Jamie Vardy will leave Leicester at the end of the season. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but let's move on to Freddie Kilby on the end, who's covering a variety of different games in the National League South today. Could you just explain the situation of what's going on in that league and what could happen today?
Yeah, thank you, Millie. The National League South title race has been touted as one of the best in English football, especially this season. We've got 6 teams fighting for the title. Enfield Town is a notable game as well. They're just 3 points above the relegation zone, but they've obviously got a massive goal difference, minus 35 goals. So they'll be fighting as long as Salisbury and St Albans City. St Albans City sitting at 1 relegation spot that's left. But obviously those teams, they'll be battling, they'll be up for the game. Truro City sit first, 86 points. Below them, you've got Torquay United, also on 86 points. Then the 2 teams below them, is Eastbourne Borough, 85 points, and you've got Worthing, 85 points. And then the two teams below them is Boreham Wood, 83 points, and Dorking Wanderers, 83 points. So 3 points within it. It's going to be a great weekend, or a great day today.
So quite literally anything could happen up in the National League South today. Thank you very much for that, Freddie. Just to bring you an update on the 12:30 kickoffs from across the league so far today. In the Premier League, Chelsea hosted Everton in the 12:30 kickoff. They're currently 1-0 up going into the second minute of stoppage time. In the Championship, a really interesting game between Coventry and Luton at Kenilworth Road. Both those teams on red cards, so both down to 10 men. That sits at 0-0 at the moment. QPR Burnley's just reached the final whistle, actually. That's finished 5-0 to the visitors Burnley, who, of course, were promoted back to the Premier League last weekend. In League One, you've got Bristol Rovers Reading, which Reading have just scored, actually, a 2-0 lead now they hold against relegation-threatened Bristol Rovers in that league. And Leyton Orient are 1-0 up against Wycombe, which heavily favours Wrexham's chances of promotion into the Championship next season. And in League Two, we've got AFC Wimbledon against Port Vale. Port Vale are currently 2-0 up, which puts them in great stead for their promotion chances up to League One. And Doncaster United versus Bradford City. Bradford down to 10 men. Doncaster are 2-0 up in that game. And Harrogate versus Notts County. That game sits 2-1 in Notts County's favour at the moment. And looking a little bit closer to home in the National League, finally, that's in the 95th minute. It's Woking 2, Eastleigh 2. Big rivalry, actually, in that game. I mentioned a moment ago, Jamie, that the news that Jamie Vardy, not Jamie Somerville, is leaving Leicester at the end of the season. He's the last Leicester player remaining from their Premier League winning season, am I right in saying? How big is it for them that they won't have him going into the Championship next year?
I think he's still shown this season he's got quality to be able to move into the Championship, and there are rumours that he's going to go back to Sheffield Wednesday, like having left Leicester now. So that they were able to go out so easily last year with him. I don't really think he ages. I don't really think we've seen too much of him kind of dropping, other than what you'd expect for him nearly being 40. Yeah. But if he can get that move to Sheffield Wednesday, they're a club in mid-table. That's the sort of move that they will probably need to kind of push them up to the promotion spots, given that it's such a tight league.
And I mentioned at the start of the show as well, we've got plenty of situations up and down the football pyramid where teams could get relegated today, teams could get promoted today, and playoff spots could be secured. So I'm just going to run you through all of those. So in the Championship today, Plymouth and Cardiff could be relegated, but that's only if Derby or Luton better their results. So 2 relegations in the Championship could be confirmed today. In League One, as I hinted at a little bit earlier, Wrexham will be promoted if they win at home to Charlton in their 5:30 kickoff, and Wycombe fail to win away at Leyton Orient, which currently they're losing, as I mentioned. Cambridge will also be relegated if they fail to win, but also down regardless if Bristol Rovers win, which they aren't at the moment. And the final sort of permutation in League One is Crawley will be relegated if Burton or Bristol Rovers better their result. Down in League Two, Doncaster will be promoted from League Two if they win against Bradford in their 12:30 kickoff, which, as I mentioned, is currently 2-1 to Bradford. So that's looking like they were going to be promoted towards the end of the day. And at Port Vale will also be promoted if they win away to Wimbledon, and Bradford or Walsall fail to win. Bradford can also be promoted if they win away to Doncaster and Walsall lose. And the final permutation in League Two is Carlisle will be relegated from the EFL if they fail to better Tranmere Rovers result. So I mentioned earlier the final score now in that Chelsea-Everton game, 1-0. Just to our Premier League panellists, you know, that fight at the top for the Champions League spots this season is so tight. I believe it's 3 points in between 4 teams. So you've got the likes of Chelsea, Man City, Newcastle, Aston Villa all still in there. What are your predictions for who might make those Champions League spots?
It could go anywhere, couldn't it? I mean, you could argue all 3 or 4 of them deserve it in their own right, but it would be nice to see someone like Nottingham Forest, you know, back in the Champions League. They've had a phenomenal season. Nuno Espirito Santo's done a great job, really proven himself again at the top level. So it'd be great to have a Nottingham Forest up there. But you can't, you know, go against the Newcastles and the Chelseas who've been there. They've done that. They've had the experience. So yeah, it really could be anyone.
Joey, Jamie, your predictions?
Yeah, I agree. I think I would absolutely love to see Nottingham Forest in Europe. I'd like to see how they'd get on with it as well. I think obviously they'd need to invest a bit in a bit of squad depth. You know, they've had a fantastic season, like Freddie correctly said, and has done a brilliant job there. Obviously, Newcastle winning the Carabao Cup means they've got a European place as well. So I'd love to see Forest get Champions League football. I think that'd be brilliant.
And Jamie?
I think it just shows how inevitable the big clubs are. The fact that the whole narrative this season has been, could we get a surprise? And Forest is looking like the only surprise now, with Bournemouth dropping off. But City have had a really poor season by their standards, and I mean by most standards, but they still sit third, and I think that shows how tight it is. But with Forest getting a win, I think that does it puts them 2 points clear of most of them, and Newcastle get a win today, and they sneak into that top 4. But these are the sorts of games that, say, Newcastle, who didn't have that prior experience given 2 years ago, now they do. That's where I think they beat a team like Forest. And given that the Premier League could now get 5 or 6 spots, hopefully that opens it up to a Forest slipping in. But with Villa's form and Newcastle's ability to get there, I do see Forest dropping out.
Yeah, really interesting stuff going on in that battle for the Champions League places in the Premier League at the moment. But one team who definitely will not be making any sorts of European football so far this season are Southampton. They're, of course, already relegated back down to the Championship and currently equaling Derby County's worst ever Premier League record points total of 11 points. And we do have someone at the Southampton game today, but she wasn't necessarily allowed to be filming anything. His secret agent, Chloe Geddes.
I'm down at the sunny south coast in St Mary's Stadium, and they will be playing Fulham. And I can speak for all the Saints fans here, and all we want is just 1 point to beat Derby's record. We don't want to equal their record. We're already the worst Premier League team here. We were relegated very early. So Fulham have won just one game in their last 5 games and sit 9th in the Premier League. And Southampton have Simon Russ. Simon Russ has managed Southampton before against Fulham in December before Ivan Europe came about, and we drew 0-0 away. But Saints haven't won in their last 5 games and have picked up just 2 points. So the Fulham team today, and captain is Bernard Leno, Teke, Batty, Sessignon, Sanderberg, Pereira, Willian, Wilson, Owobi and Jimenez. And for the Saints side, we've got Aaron Ramsdale in goal, Walker Peters, Harvard Bellis, Bednarak, Jack Stevens and Southampton's captain, Ryan Manning, Tim Downs, Leslie Ugachukwu, Fernandez, Camaldine, and a surprise to the Saints fan, Ross Stewart is starting today. How long will it take for him to go off injured? Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much for that there, Chloe, and I do apologise about the audio. So I'm just going to run you through both the Southampton and Fulham team news, just in case you didn't manage to catch that. So for Southampton, starting is Aaron Ramsdale on goal, Walker Peters, Harwood Bellis, Jan Bednarek, Jack Stevens and Ryan Manning make up the back line, with Flynn Downs, Ugachukwu and Mateus Fernandez in the midfield, with what looks like a front 2 maybe of Camaldine, Sulemana and Ross Stewart, who hasn't played very much for the majority of the season, really. And when looking at Fulham's lineup, they have, if I can just find it a minute, their lineup is, of course, Bernd Leno in goal, Kenny Teat, Anderson, Bassi and Sessignon in the back line, with Sander Berge, Andreas Pereira, Willian and Harry Wilson, with Alex Iwobi and then Raul Jimenez up front. So just in case, if you didn't manage to catch that from Chloe Geddes there, that's the team news from St Mary's for Southampton as they host Fulham. Now, we've also got many other reporters roaming around the grounds at the moment. One game that we've got to cover today is Winchester City against Taunton, who are in a bit of a relegation battle. And as far as I'm aware, I think we can bring you Nathan Rawlings' preview live from the Winchester City ground.
Hello Millie, hello to the lads in the studio and a warm welcome to everyone watching at home. I'm here in the lovely and calm, serene city of Winchester, but this game promises to be anything but. 18th place Winchester City, just 1 point and 1 place above the relegation zone, face 9th place Taunton Town in what promises to be a dramatic day in the Southern League Premier South. I'm delighted to say that I'm now joined by Winchester City Head of Media, Nathan Potter. Just quickly, Nathan, what's your score prediction for today?
Well, it's going to be a tight one, but I think hopefully Winch can come out on top here with a 2-1 win and keep their status at this level.
Lovely stuff. A win guarantees their survival. Should be an exciting game for all. I certainly am looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Back to you.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to hear more from Nathan Rawlings, and maybe even a bit more from Nathan Potter throughout the afternoon. Back to our panel now, Freddie Kilby. Can you go a little bit in more depth to me what the table situation looks like for that National League South promotion battle? Because you mentioned there at the top, the two top teams are only separated by goal difference, am I right in saying?
Yes, that's correct, Millie. So Truro are 2 goals ahead of Torquay United, who are in second place. So obviously that's going to be a tough battle, but it's actually the teams further down in that order who have got the better goal difference. So if Dorking Wanderers pick up 3 points and the top 2 teams don't, the goal difference will automatically surpass them, so winning the title. So the goal difference is a major factor here. Obviously the points are important, but if the top 2 teams don't collect points, because a few teams are playing relegation rivals who are going to be up for the game, fired up, fighting for those 3 points. So, I mean, it's going to produce some very interesting results all across the league, really. And I think it's going to be a very interesting battle, but who knows what can happen.
Just to mention as well, if we're talking about interesting results, just at the last minute by the looks of it in that game between Luton and Coventry in the Championship, Luton have just scraped a 1-0 win against Coventry with both teams down to 10 men. So that's a big result for them in the Championship relegation battle. Joey, coming to you now. You've mentioned that Liam Delap starting for Ipswich today. Or is he on the bench? He's starting today. He's been such a prominent figure, really, hasn't he, been in this Ipswich team, and probably the only reason that they haven't already been relegated. What do you make of his performances so far this season, and are we going to be seeing him somewhere else next season, do you reckon?
Well, I mean, to answer that question, the answer has to be surely, because, as it may have been alluded to earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of Ipswich, but I will give credit where credit's due, and I have to say he is a fantastic striker. He's very complete. And, he's caused a lot of good defences this season, lots of problems. And with the report that he's got a £30 million relegation release clause, and we're speaking earlier about some of these clubs getting European football and needing to invest, I think he will want to play higher, he'll want to play better football than the Championship, because, him and the Championship would just be unfair on everyone else, really. But yeah, I think he's been excellent. Like you say, he's been the star in that team this year, and I would like for his career as well as a future England striker, hopefully, for him to move on and play the best level of football he can.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And we also look at that sort of European battle slightly higher up the table. Freddie, you're covering Brighton today. They're a team who could once again clinch a European place this season, and they've gone through a little bit of a blip recently, haven't they?
Yeah, like I said, they haven't won in the last 5 games. They started the season really well under Fabian Hertzler, new manager, the youngest one in the league, of course, as it was always mentioned. They started off really well, but as the other teams, the Bournemouth, the Villa, they got better. Brighton, they've dropped off a little bit. They've gone a bit under the radar, but they are still a quality football team, aren't they? They've got very good players. But today they're missing João Pedro for sending off last week for another incident of lashing out at a defender, caught by VAR. So that's a big loss. But they do still have a chance. Like I said, lots of teams have a chance. Brighton definitely do, but they've got to start with a win today against West Ham if they're going to have any chance, really.
And do you think Brighton's a kind of team that Liam Delap might end up maybe overgoing to in the summer?
Yeah, well, I think he can go higher than that, I think, to be honest. The fact he's looked incredible in a very poor Premier League side, I think the likes of Manchester United, even Arsenal could look at him and think he's a big, powerful striker, he's quick, he can score all types of goals. I think he can go higher than Brighton. No offence to Brighton, of course. It'd be a great signing for them, but I think he's got to look higher, especially like Joey said, with the £30 million release clause. It's sort of a free hit at the end of the day, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Arsenal there. They've, of course, for half the season had makeshift striker Mikel Merino up there with Havertz being out injured, so could be a good target for Arsenal over the summer. Looking at the Championship now, we've also got a bit of a duo up at a very iconic stadium, the Den, for Millwall, as they host, I've completely forgotten who it is they're playing now. That's clever, isn't it? Who
as they host Welsh team Swansea. And like I said, Diogo and Billy are up there for us to preview the game.
Here we are today, where Millwall face Swansea today. If Millwall win today and Coventry and Middlesbrough lose, that will mean that they will move into 6th position, and meaning that they will be in a playoff spot. Both teams are on a good run of form. Millwall have won 4 of the last games, and Swansea are unbeaten in 6 games. Last time the two teams faced each other, Millwall beat Swansea 1-0 with a 89th minute winner, and the last time that Millwall were in the playoffs were in 2017. In the 140 years of the club existing, they have never played in the Premier League, so today is a big game. Let's see what happens.
Will do. Yep, I'm here at the Charters Community Stadium. The atmosphere is beginning to build. The fans are piling in. My weather app suggested it would be about 17 degrees by the time kickoff arrives. So I have brought the sun cream for my pale skin. Unfortunately, I don't think that will be needed as the clouds begin to roll in. As the atmosphere is building, got a little bit of team news for you. Winchester City main man Ike Hill, 17 league goals this season, is out injured for perhaps their team's biggest game yet. Also forward Trevor Caborn is missing with an injury as well. So Winch's front three then reads Malambo on the left, Tommy Wright, the man in form, down the middle, and George Britton on the right. For Taunton then, players to watch out for that Owen Brain scored a couple in a few games recently. He looks to be one to watch out for, as well as Nielsen as well. Atmosphere, as I said, building, tensions rising, drama, I can feel it in the air. It's going to be a good one.
Oh, well, I'm really looking forward to hearing a lot of that drama this afternoon. Thank you very much for that, Nathan, who's at Winchester versus Taunton in the Southern Premier Division for us. And we've also got a reporter at the National League South for Chippenham versus Hornchurch this afternoon. Jamie Oleshinsky can bring us that preview.
Hello, Millie. Thank you very much. I'm Jamie Oleshinsky. I'm here at Chippenham versus Hornchurch, this 3 o'clock kickoff that is the battle for mid-table. But to be honest, nobody really cares about it because everybody's looking at the top or everybody's looking at the bottom. Both sides make 3 changes from their last outings. Chippenham today needs to win by 5 clear goals to go above Hornchurch. Hornchurch pretty much set in the top half of the table. Both sides just looking to finish above their local rivals because only pride is at stake. But I'll see you throughout the game, and everybody have a good couple of hours on the panel, and hopefully a top of the table clash next season.
Thank you very much for that, Jamie. And probably our only and biggest Chippenham Town fan that there is. Just some other football news to bring you from today. Celtic have thrashed Dundee United to seal 13th Scottish Premier League title in 14 seasons. I mean, I know we don't talk a lot about the Scottish Premiership so much, but how dominant have Celtic been over, the last sort of at least decade in that league? It's been sort of ridiculous to see, and maybe from a Scottish football fan point of view, a little bit boring.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that's interesting about that league is obviously Celtic Rangers is given to be this big derby, and I'm not doubting that they hate each other, but they play each other 4-5 times a year, and it always seems like Celtic end up winning the league. Especially, like you say, across the last decade, their period of dominance has been, well, it's been devastating, really. And it was actually nice to have a little bit of a decent run in the Champions League this year as well. Obviously, I think they lost to Bayern Munich in the end, but they gave that a real go. And especially at the Bayern Munich ground, they were excellent, and they actually looked like a good side. So it would be nice to see them, hopefully, maybe continue their dominance and impose themselves on the European stage a little bit.
I mean, you mentioned sort of derbies there as well. We've got a bit of an iconic derby returning to the football fixture list next season as Southampton relegated and Portsmouth confirming survival in the Championship. So we'll have at least 2 South Coast derbies to watch next season. I mean, any of you, please tell me, how important is that for sort of South Coast football and Hampshire as a county, really?
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? Pompey versus Saints. It's a big Premier League fixture. It always has been throughout history, but we haven't been able to see it for quite some time. The fact in the Championship doesn't make a difference, does it? They both still hate each other. They're both still going to want to win every single game they possibly can against each other. and it's just good to be back on the calendar. And I'm sure, as I would love to try and get tickets for it, it's going to be pretty much impossible, isn't it? But yeah, Saints versus Pompey, it's good to be back.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at sort of the difference in finances that both those teams have got at the moment. You know, Southampton, as they go down, will get that massive parachute payment, and Portsmouth have struggled a little bit with money over the last few years, but they've signed some brilliant players. I mean, you look at the likes of Josh Murphy, who's, you know, done brilliantly for them so far this season. Callum Lang scoring, I think it was 4 in a game at some point so far this season as well. So they've got the talent to make that fixture competitive, which. Do you think?
Portsmouth will beat them. I think that, especially at Fareham Park as well, I think the atmosphere that their fans are going to create,
isn't it?
The atmosphere that will be created, they haven't played each other in such a long time. You know, Southampton have a very much of a downer season. You know, not really sure what direction you're going in with management either. I think Portsmouth are going to beat them.
I think some credit's got to go to John Mousinho as well. You know, the job he walked into is a bit of an uphill challenge, really, and to drag Portsmouth to where they are now, you know, fighting, well, I think staying in the Championship. I mean, credit to him, and obviously the team as well, but, I mean, that's a tough task he completed. And to face Saints as well in the Championship, what a testament to him and the team, really.
I mean, John Mousinho has also hinted that the team's going to have sort of more financial backing from the club next season as well when it comes to transfers and things like that, which will definitely make it really interesting if they can get a good few couple of players in over the summer, because, you know, what they're doing over there is a bit of a project, and Southampton, as Joey mentioned, got no idea what's happening with management there. So it could be really interesting to see those two sides battle it out next season. We've also got some coverage to bring to you for a preview for the 5:15 FA Cup game from Wembley as Crystal Palace face Aston Villa. And I think our reporter Harrison Richards can bring you up to date with what's going on over there.
I'm Harrison Richards. I'm at the Green Man ahead of Crystal Palace's FA Cup semi-final against Aston Villa. The chance to reach our second final in almost 10 years, and under Oliver Glasner, who is the best manager in the Premier League, I believe we will do it with a 2-1 win today. A Mateta brace. We can get the loudest boom at Wembley. Cheers for that.
It's Alex Aiken here, live reporting for Solent Sports News at Wembley Stadium. The last time Villa were here for an FA Cup semi-final was 10 years ago now, as they come away 2-1 victors at Liverpool. Today they face Crystal Palace, and it will still be a tough test. They have some selection headaches, but I expect Tyrone Mings to come in today to cope with the physicality of Mateta up front for Palace. But Watkins versus Rashford is still a headache for Unai Emery, as both will want to be knocking on the door today and playing at Wembley. Villa are still the form team in the league, despite the loss against Man City, and they'll be very disappointed with anything other than a win today. Thank you. Back in the studio.
There's a really interesting last 4 teams in those FA Cup semi-finals, aren't there? I mean, you've got Manchester City against, who was it, Forest again to come up, and of course Palace against Aston Villa today. I think, what teams would you guys like to see in the final? Because in my opinion, if you've got, say, the likes of Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa in an FA Cup final, to get a slightly different winner to what we've had in the last few years, where it's been, you know, a trophy that's been quite frankly dominated by the likes of Manchester City and your Liverpools. I think that would probably be the most 24-25 season FA Cup final that we could have.
If Man City are the ones that always, you expect them to be in it, don't you? But like you said, I think the Forest and the Villa are the two most historic clubs. You could argue that would be a really interesting thing. But the fact that Palace are there and they have a chance of winning a trophy, I think it would be brilliant if Crystal Palace could do it. They're not on the best run of form at the moment compared to the other teams as well. But I think if Palace can get past Aston Villa tonight, they'll fancy their chances in the final against Nottingham Forest or Man City. But like I said, any of the other 3 teams other than Man City would really sum up this season quite nicely, wouldn't it?
Jamie, who would you like to see in that FA Cup final?
I think Palace are the team from today's semi that I want to see, mostly because I think as a Man United fan, I saw them lose in the last 10 minutes of extra time with that Jesse Lingard goal. And ever since then, they've always done so well, always labelled with this boring team that just finish mid-table and just scrape on by every season. There's not really any drama, but they've done so well this season. Mateta's kind of been consistently good ever since people doubted him in that first season. And I rate Oli Glasner so highly. I would not be shocked if Postecoglou goes and they try and get him in. I mean, they tried to sell him for, 80 million to Bayern. And he probably, if managers could get sold, I think he is that good. The other one, it feels inevitable City will do something. I mean, like I said earlier, they're 3rd in the league and they've definitely not been the 3rd best team this season. So that ends up happening usually. But if it goes to the final and Palace are there, Palace have got my support.
Yeah, definitely the biggest underdogs in that competition at the moment. And we've also got a playoff final bit of coverage to bring you in the Wessex League this afternoon as Fareham Town go up against Andover New Street, and I believe Ollie Price is there to bring us an update. I'm sorry, I don't think we've got any sound from Ollie Price yet at the moment, but we'll try and bring you that as quick as we can. Going back to that sort of FA Cup debate there, so today is of course Palace against Aston Villa. Do you think that occasion of being at Wembley might get to Palace a little bit? Because of course, like Alex mentioned there, they haven't been even at the stadium competing for so many years. Freddie, what's your take on that?
Yeah, some teams are typically quite cursed, when they go to Wembley. I don't know if it's just the occasion where, all the adrenaline, it might sort of suck it out of you towards the end of the game. Get pretty tired, and just the whole vibes of the occasion sort of overcome them. But Palace's supportive fan base are just so good. The seas of red and blue, it just provides a whole boost to the team. And I can see them getting over the line against Aston Villa, but I think the European place that you earn at the end of it as well in Europa League gets overlooked a little bit. I mean, that would be fantastic for Palace. And also Forest, if they do get through, they've not played in a competition since like 1995. So, I mean, for either of those teams, a Europa League place would be absolutely huge. Financially as well, the money that comes through, it can set them up for a few years,
It's mad when you look at the Premier League table this year with the number of teams. I mean, you had Bournemouth, Fulham and Nottingham Forest all come up together, and they've clearly spent their money in the right places to be in the place where they are in the league now. Why do you think for the last 2 seasons that, I mean, inevitably after today, the 3 teams that have been promoted up to the Premier League are now going straight back down?
The gap does seem to be getting bigger and bigger every season, and I mean, if people aren't necessarily in agreement with that, then the stats sort of back it up, don't they? Like you say, the teams that are getting promoted are coming straight back down. So, I mean, you have a look at those teams, and I look at management, and I think how in high regard do we look at, like, Marco Silva at Fulham, Thomas Frank at Brentford, as just 2 examples of clubs that have recently come up and sustained it. And you look at them 2 and you see them as really, really good managers. And then you look at other clubs, big clubs like United and Tottenham, who are really struggling this season. But like Jamie said earlier, they're inevitable, aren't they? They end up, getting away with it. They win a European title, which one of United and Spurs might do. But for clubs that are in the Championship, it's quite an alarming, place to be and a thing to look at, that they're not staying up. Clubs that aren't staying up.
No, and when you look at that Premier League table as well, you mentioned Manchester United there. They're 38 points this Premier League season, only equal with Wolves, who were in that relegation battle for so long so far this season, and Spurs 1 point below Wolves as well. I mean, Freddie, you can tell me on the end just how disappointing it must be to be a Spurs fan at the moment.
Yeah, the supporters are not happy, and you could blame it on multiple things, really. I mean, like, ownership's come under criticism, Daniel Levy, the whole structure around the club. Or you could look at Ange Postecoglou and his tactics. He's been blamed for defensive naivety. You can blame it on so many things, but it doesn't fix the overall situation. Bring a new manager in, yeah, it might fix something a little bit, but I mean, people point things at the board at the top, but I mean, where do you start? The board are not going to leave for a while, but I mean, they can be credited for building the club to what it is. I mean, when they took over, the club was in a much worse financial state, and now they're one of the biggest revenue-generating teams in Europe. That massive stadium as well. Where do you pin the blame? I don't really know. But
do you think the situation for Tottenham is that they're building the club to be more of a business than they are an actual? I see a lot of nods going on here, than an actual football club.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. Fans will complain that more money is spent on infrastructure than it is players in the team, and the manager's not being backed. But then I question myself, where do you draw the line in that? Dominic Solanke for £60 million. I think the ownership are investing money. I just think it's the scouting departments is where it's failing. They're not investing money into the right players, or players that might fit the system. So I reckon they can spend their money a bit better, but I don't think it's the fact they're not spending money in the right places. But you can argue it's being built like a business. I mean, that's what ENIC are known for. They're great businessmen, but are they really that knowledgeable around football? I don't know, but it's a great debate.
I do just want to say, I think that you look at the teams, obviously, kind of back-to-back years of the teams who have gone up have gone back down. But examples like Brentford, Brighton, Wolves are all smart, promoted teams. They invested well, they had a clear strategy before, and they stuck by it, and they did it well. But you look at Leicester, sacking Steve Cooper, bringing Van Nistelrooy in. Van Nistelrooy won the title with PSV, and the PSV fans weren't happy with him. Like, you bring in someone like that, and you really do have to question what the strategy was. I mean, Southampton with Russell Martin, obviously you stick with him, but he clearly wasn't a manager that was going to do well in the Prem because he didn't want to adapt. And then the next option was, you ended up with Juric, who just felt like someone you're just shoving in the gap until you can get Danny Rowe. And it just feels like there aren't enough smart recruitment teams because there's such a rush of we have to try and stay here. So we will just do what we think is best rather than what the analysts say. It's just what the business is, because that's what matters. It's the money that comes into the club.
And a lot of fans will go and blame the people at the top of their clubs as well when they look at the people that make decisions, of course. I think, as far as I'm aware now, we can now cross back to Ollie, who's at Fareham Town versus Andover New Street for that playoff final in the Wessex League. Ollie.
Hello, I'm Ollie Price. I'm here at the Cam Arles Football Stadium here for Fareham Town versus Andover. It's going to be a great one today. We're only 7 minutes away from kickoff here. We're at the Cam Alders Football Stadium in Hampshire. Has a standing and seating of 450, where the rest of the ground is reserved for standing. It's a beautiful day for it, jam-packed with fans, and I'll keep you guys updated with the score. Hopefully get some nice interviews in there, and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you very much for that, Ollie. A very interesting game, which I'm sure will be kept up to date on throughout the afternoon. We're only 5 minutes away from kickoff in all our games so far. If you just, guys on the panel, do you want to run us through the team news again in all your Premier League games?
Yeah, so Brighton, 3 changes. João Pedro was forced because of the red card last week, and Van Heck as well because he was stretchered off, and Minters the other one. So Verbruggen in goal. Back 4 of Estepinian, Dunk, Vifer and Hinchelwood. In midfield, Ayari and Belaba. And then the front 4, as it looks, is Solly March, O'Reilly, Adingra and Welbeck. And as for West Ham, also 3 changes. Kufal, Soler and Fulkrug all gone out. So that means Areola in goal. A back 3 of Kilman, Tobido and Mavropanos. The flying fullbacks, Emerson and Wan-Bissaka. Ward-Prowse and Paquetá in front of them. And then a very exciting sort of attacking 3 of Mohamed Kudus, Thomas Souček and their top goal scorer, Jared Bowen.
Thank you very much, Freddie. Joey, what's the team news at St James's Park?
Well, the big team news sees Joelinton miss out with a knee injury. He was expected to be part of the matchday squad today, but supposedly didn't travel as a bit of a late withdrawal. So he drops out and Willett comes in for him. And the big team news for Ipswich is that Liam Delap is back in the team and is starting up front. So the Newcastle team has Nick Pope in goal. It has Tino Livramento at left back, along to Dan Burn, Fabian Schär and Kieran Trippier to complete their back 4. Willett comes into that midfield with Tonali and captain Guimaraes. And Barnes, Isak and Murphy will lead the line for Newcastle. As for Ipswich, it is Palmer in goal, O'Shea, Woofenden, Burgess and Greaves as a back 4. Morsey and Taylor will look to give them a little bit of protection. Ben Johnson is on the right-hand side, Clark on the left and Enciso in the 10, with Liam Delap leading the line for Ipswich.
Thank you very much, Joey. And Jamie, what are the lineups looking like at Molyneux?
So it's just 2 changes for Wolves at the moment. So Jose Sarr's back in for Daniel Bentley after that injury in the warm-up against Man United. Back 3 of Matt Doherty coming in for Santi Bueno. Emmanuel Agbadou, Totti Gomez. Midfield 4 of Semedo, João Gomez, Andre and Ryan Nouri, with Marco Minezzi, Mateus Cunha and Strand Larsen finishing that front 3. Just the 1 change for Leicester though, that will be Buonanotte for Mavididi. So you've got the usual back 5 of Hermansen, Luke Thomas, Conor Cody, Wout Faes and Ricardo Pereira. In midfield you've got Boubakary Samare, mouthful, Wilfred Ndidi, and then you've got the attacking lineup of Bobby Reid, Bilal El Khanous, Buonanotte and the evergreen Jamie Vardy.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And Freddie on the end. Do you want to just remind us of the situation at National League South at the moment? Because it's an incredible story what's going on there on the final day.
Yes, thank you, Millie. A very intense race for the title in the National League South. In the top spot, we've got Truro City, who sit at 86 points. Torquay United, who sit under them, 86 points. Eastbourne Borough third with 85 points. 4th is Worthing with 85 points. Boreham Wood are 5th with 83 points. And Dorking Wanderers 6th with 83 points. So 3 points all within those 6 teams. Anyone can claim that title on this final day. I mean, on the other hand as well, we've got a relegation battle for that one last relegation spot. You know, Enfield Town sit 3 points above the drop zone, but have got a very bad goal difference, so they're in trouble. Salisbury sit below them with 45 points, just one spot above that drop zone. And then St Albans City sit in the same points, just one goal in between them. So that's going to be a very intense battle there, but we'll see who goes down, who wins the title.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing all about it this afternoon, Freddie. I'm just going to run you through what the Premier League, Championship, League One and League Two top and bottom spots are looking like as we head into the games this afternoon. So in the Premier League, top 4 at the moment, we've got Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City and Chelsea, who have just nabbed that 4th spot back after their win this afternoon against Everton. And Nottingham Forest also sit 5th. In the Championship, of course, Burnley and Leeds are the 2 sides to get promoted as of last weekend. And in the playoff spots, you've got Sheffield United, Sunderland, Bristol City, and it's not showing me the 6th space for some reason. And in League One, you've got Birmingham and Wrexham in the top 2. And just to mention, guys, Wrexham 2nd in League One, you know, probably going to get their 2nd back-to-back promotion in, you know, since they've been taken over by the big Hollywood stars, you know, Ryan Reynolds, all that jazz. How strange is it to think that you'll have teams, maybe like Sunderland, like Southampton, like Portsmouth, maybe even Sheffield United, playing Wrexham next season?
It's a remarkable story, isn't it? I mean, you have to give the credit to the whole club, though, because the amount of times we see new owners come in and it's a big story when they come in and then nothing really happens and it sort of stagnates as to where they are. But Wrexham they've got promoted from, you know, the National League. National League, one below National League, or were they? No, they were National League and then League Two to League One, and like you say, now looking to be in the Championship next season. It's an incredible story.
Yeah, no. So I suppose we'll be looking forward to anyone going to watch Southampton next season. You might also want to be making a trip up to the racecourse ground. They, of course, don't play until 5:30 this evening. And in League Two, the current promotion spots are filled by Doncaster in 1st, Port Vale in 2nd and Bradford in 3rd, whilst in 4th and 5th, still battling for those promotion spots, you've got Walsall and Notts County. The relegation battle's also looking very interesting, not necessarily in the Premier League, but in the Championship, League One and League Two. The bottom 3 in the Premier League, of course, you've got Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton. Leicester and Southampton, of course, already relegated, and Ipswich could be relegated today if they don't get anything at Newcastle. In the Championship, you've got a very big game today as well between Hull and Derby County. They sit 21st and 22nd in the Championship respectively, so we'll be keeping a close eye on that game this afternoon. Luton currently sit in 20th, who just nabbed that win against Coventry earlier on this afternoon, and then followed by Hull, Derby, Cardiff and Plymouth. Elsewhere in the relegation battle in League One, Burton sit just above the drop zone in 20th, with Bristol Rovers in 21st, Crawley in 22nd, Cambridge in 23rd and Shrewsbury in 24th. And in League Two, the bottom consists of Harrogate in 20th, Accrington Stanley in 21st, Tranmere Rovers in 22nd, just above the drop zone, Carlisle and Morecambe then below, already in the relegation spots. Now, it's just hit 3 o'clock. We should have kickoff in all of our games as far as I'm aware. Freddie, what's the atmosphere looking like at the Amex Stadium?
It's buzzing. It's just about to get underway. I think it's going to be a really good game. Brighton, they 4-2 in their last game. They lost, so it could be quite a high-scoring one. They have just zoomed in on Danny Welbeck, and he looks up for this game. Something I found out, he's on 9 goals this season, which is his best goal-scoring season ever in the Premier League, which I think is mental. He's been around for ages. He's always scoring goals, isn't he? He's an absolute veteran in this league. But he's on 9 goals this season, and he looks up for this game, so I'm hoping for a good one. It's just about to get underway now, and Jarrod Bowen.
I feel like he scores a goal every other week, Danny Welbeck, so 9 doesn't sound quite right to the ears. Joey, the atmosphere is always incredible at St James's Park, and I'm sure they're going to try and make it as difficult as they can for Ipswich. For, you know, they could get relegated, and Newcastle still looking for those Champions League spots.
Absolutely, and I think the atmosphere today has a little bit extra to it because we have got the return of Eddie Howe. Obviously, he's been missing the last few games with pneumonia, so it's brilliant, firstly, to see him back on the touchline, which just gives that extra bit of motivation to the players, I'm sure. So, yeah, a tough task for Ipswich today.
And Jamie, Molineux, quite often an iconic venue that provides a good game a lot of the time. I mean, I know we've spoken, and Leicester Wolves seems like a bit of a nothing game. Wolves can't really get relegated, and Leicester, of course, already down, but you know, they still have something to prove, don't they?
Well, for Wolves today, a win would be their first time in Premier League history in which they've won 6 in a row. And obviously, Leicester have only picked up 1 point from their last 30. So it's one of those fixtures that there's nothing to play for, really. And both teams have total opposite form. So it's one of those all or nothing games. I'm hoping for all.
Yeah, we can only hope. And Freddie, any goals gone in that National League South promotion battle yet?
Not yet, Millie. I'm hoping there will be some excitement a bit later, maybe some goals flying in. But at the minute, it's all 0-0. But I think we're just waiting for one game to kick off, and that's Hempstead and Torquay. But I'm sure that will come very, very soon, and hopefully some goals will as well.
As far as I'm aware, we've got 1 goal so far already in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. That comes from League 2. It looks like Salford have just gone 1-0 up against Colchester. Colchester are a team fighting for those playoff spots in League 2 at the moment. All the other games look like they're all 0-0, but of course I'll bring you up to date with any goals that do go in across the leagues, just to bring you up to date as well with the 12:30 and 1 p.m. kickoffs from the Premier League downwards. Chelsea, of course, with that 1-0 win against Everton. Luton with a really crucial 1-0 win at home to Coventry. In the last few minutes they scored that goal just to keep their hopes of Championship survival alive. Burnley, of course, already promoted up to the Premier League for next season, 5-0 up against QPR. So another extremely fantastic result for them. Hull and Derby is another game that's just kicked off. Again, I mentioned that's a huge game, so one to keep an eye on. League 1 results that have already happened. Bristol Rovers lost 2-0 to Reading. Reading, of course, very interesting story with their ownership group and whether they'll actually survive as a football club going into next season. And Leyton Orient with a 1-0 win against Wycombe Wanderers, who Wycombe were the team fighting Wrexham for that promotion spot up to the Championship. But that loss means that if Wrexham win today, Wrexham will be the team that gets promoted to the Championship. The results from the finished games in League 2 read Wimbledon 0, Port Vale 2, keeping Port Vale in the promotion spots up to League 1, and Doncaster with that 2-1 win against Bradford, meaning that I think they're promoted now to League 1 as well, and Harrogate 1, Notts County 3, the other League 2 game finished. It doesn't look like, we have a goal in League 1, as far as I'm aware. Wigan 1-0 up against Blackpool at the moment. And that's all I can bring you from the other 3 p.m. kickoffs. Freddie, anything going on at the Amex so far?
Brighton definitely on the front foot so far. West Ham, they're meant to be playing a 3 at the back, but right now it's a flat 5 because Adingra and Solly March, they're bombing down both wings. It's good to see March back. He obviously had that really bad injury a couple of seasons ago. He's not quite been the same player since, but he's still dangerous and he's loved at Brighton, isn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, right now Brighton on the front foot. They've had a long-range strike from Estepinian, but that's way over the bar. But yeah, West Ham, they're defending for their lives. We're only 3 minutes in.
Oh my goodness, they're a team that haven't necessarily been living up to their hype so far this season, are they? You made some great signings over the summer, but haven't quite been able to live up to that. Joey, and Newcastle on the front foot at St James's Park as of yet?
Surprisingly not. It's actually been Ipswich that have made the better start. I've just had a corner and Liam Delap very nearly got his head to it. But Newcastle just, finding their feet now, a bit more possession as you'd expect the game to sort of have that pattern. So an Ipswich team that clearly know they have to go out and try and win today. There's no point going to St James's Park and just accepting that they're going to get relegated, and they come out on the front foot.
Jamie, what's happening at Molineux so far?
Not too much. I'm not sure either team have came out the final third yet. There's been a couple of throw-ins, but it's basically just kind of getting ready for the rest of the game. Cunha's been playing kind of all over the pitch despite his advanced role, so it's nice to see him getting involved in what could be one of his last games for Wolves.
Yeah, no, definitely. Another goal to bring you from the National League. York City are currently 1-0 up against Solihull Moors. Looking a little bit further down that National League pyramid, we've got Freddie Kilby, of course, on the end, covering that National League South title race. Any goals yet?
Yeah, well, it's Truro City that have shed first blood in that title race. So they're leading St Albans 1-0. So, well deemed the goal. There was another goal in the league. I mean, it doesn't have much of an impact on the title race, but Farnborough are leading Maidstone 1-0. But it looks like Maidstone has secured that last playoff spot that's needed. They can't challenge for the title, and unless something really dramatic happens, it doesn't look like they're going to fall out of that spot either. So that's all that's happened so far.
Thank you very much, Freddie. We shall keep you up to date with that as the afternoon goes on. Still 0-0 in the majority of the other 3 p.m. kickoffs. Of course, don't forget we've got at 5:15 Crystal Palace against Aston Villa in the FA Cup semi-final to come for you, and as well as a 5:30 kickoff as Wrexham play in a very crucial game for them to get promoted to the Championship. Just as well to mention, there's a massive fight actually tonight in the boxing as Chris Eubank Jr. is against Conor Benn, and as far as I'm aware, we were supposed to be bringing you some updates from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but I'm not sure what's happening with that completely. Of course, the big story coming out of that is Chris Eubank Jr. not making weight, but apparently in his second weight check he has made it, and after that fine of £375,000 by just missing it by 0.05 pounds on the Friday. Now, I'm not the biggest boxing fan, but as far as I'm aware, I know how big this fight is. I mean, I know you're quite into your boxing, aren't you, Freddie?
Yeah, it's a massive fight. These two absolutely hate each other, it's safe to say. And obviously Eubank's had a very expensive few weeks. He's been fined, I think, almost £600,000. And there's videos online of him struggling to make weight. So it's going to be an interesting fight, but I think Conor Benn probably takes this one.
Well, very interesting. Not sure if I'll pay to watch that on my TV later on, but you know, quite often when I watch boxing, it's just a lot of hugging. That's what I take from it most of the time. I think I'll stick to football, as that podcast is named. Going to come to you now, Joey. Any sort of action at St James's Park for you to bring us?
No, not particularly. I think Newcastle are now just sort of controlling the game as you'd expect them to after the early chance for Ipswich. But it sort of has the feel to the game where it just looks a bit inevitable that Newcastle are just sort of taking their time now and, you know, in control of the game. Livermentus in a lot of the ball in a high position, so you know that sort of tells you everything you need to know about whereabouts the game is being played. You know, it's on the edge of it, which is final third. So it's starting to take shape now as Newcastle look in the more dominant side.
Thank you very much, Joey. We can now cross live to Nathan Rawlings, who's at Winchester versus Taunton for us in the Southern Premier Division. A big game for Winchester's chance of survival. Nathan, there's been a goal. Who's it gone in for?
6 minutes into this game, we are 1-0 up to Winch now. Winchester City scored early on. It was Winchester City 1, Taunton 0. A great ball in from the right wing by Josh McCormick, headed home tidily by informed striker Tommy Wright. The atmosphere is building. The game's already getting a little bit scrappy, and it's a dramatic tie as Winch are on the attack now. Ball forward to Tommy Wright, just past that left side of the box. As he's driving forward, dives into that box, cuts in, plays the pass out. Is there going to be a shot? Just stay with me. There's good chance looking here as Barron plays it out to Tommy Wright in the box, who cuts in and shoots, but curls his effort straight into the hands of the goalkeeper. This game already looking very, very, very end-to-end. The drama's building across the league, and just 10 minutes gone here at the Charles Community Stadium. It is Winchester City 1, Taunton Town 0.
Thank you very much for that, Nathan Rawlings. That's very good for Winchester City's chances of survival in the Southern Premier Division this season. A few goals to keep you up to date on in the National League so far. Barnet are 1-0 up against Aldershot. Boston United 1-0 up against Gateshead. That goal's just gone in. Dagenham and Redbridge 1-0 up against Altrincham. Rochdale 1-0 up against Hartlepool. And York City leading Solihull Moors by 1-0. Freddie, you made a little noise there. What's going on?
It's the first real attempt on goal, and it's West Ham actually for their first attack. Aaron Wan-Bissaka bombing down the right-hand side, puts the ball into the box to Soucek, this time on the floor rather than in the air, because that's what he's normally good at. But he just hits it into the side netting, so not quite in. And I'm sure the West Ham fans, the other side of the goal, may have thought that went in. But yeah, it hit the side netting, and it's still 0-0.
Thank you very much, Freddie. Freddie, on the end, what's that title race looking like in National League South?
Millie, it's only looking in one direction so far, and Truro City are 3-0 up against St Albans City. So St Albans not the only Saints side that are struggling this season, as they look like that relegation spot might be confirmed early doors, but you never know what will happen. But yeah, 3-0 in 10 minutes. John Askey's side have come all guns blazing, and it looks like they might have wrapped this one up early, but we shall see what happens.
Does anyone want to put a bet on that one for that to be 9? Wow. Anyone fancy their chances this afternoon? No? OK. Well, there's a goal to bring you in the Championship as well so far. Bit of a shocking one, actually. Sheffield Wednesday 1-0 up against Portsmouth. Well, I don't know why that's really that shocking, because, of course, Hillsborough, very iconic ground, very historically tough to play at, and that goal, I'm pretty sure, has come from Patterson with an assist from the former Southampton man on loan, Armstrong actually. So a big result there for Sheffield Wednesday with their issues, and of course Danny Roll, the Sheffield Wednesday manager, could be heading to Southampton in the summer if the rumours are correct. Jamie Somerville, let's go back to you. What's the situation at Molineux at the moment?
It's been all Wolves. A couple of chances for Wolves. So Mateus Cunha basically ran the length of the pitch and shot from about 30 yards out, just going to the right of the keeper. But the closest chance of the game, Hermansen had a free kick, passed it to his defender, but mispassed it. And João Gomez shot from just in front of the halfway line, and it just went over. It would have been good to see that go in, but still 0-0.
Thank you very much, Jamie. I can now believe we can cross to Ollie Price, who's at Fareham Town versus Andover New Street in the Wessex League playoff final. Ollie, has there been any goals?
So it is 1-0 Fareham against Andover. Is 1-0 Fareham. It was a lovely goal by Callum Neal, number 8. It was a counter-attack from the right-hand side, crosses it in. It's a beautiful finish. It's been all Fareham up to this point, to be honest. Andover really haven't caused Fareham any trouble so far. And, you know, crowd is being absolutely amazing. So we'll be back with more updates soon.
Ollie, thank you very much for that. It looks like Fareham are currently the team which will be promoted to step 3 of that tier of football. So Andover New Street currently losing there against Fareham Town, and it looks like there might be a goal going in for Plymouth in their game away to Preston, but I shall keep you updated on all of these games as they keep going on so far. Joey, have we managed? Oh, okay.
Wow.
Let's maybe not go to Joey. Freddie, what's going on at the Alex?
That is an unbelievable goal. It's 1-0 to Brighton. It looked like they were just passing it around the edge of the box. West Ham looked comfortable. And then Ayari, who's come into the side today, has just unleashed one from about 30 yards out. And it's curled perfectly into the top right-hand corner. Absolutely nothing Alphonse Areola could have done about it. And that's one way to prove why you should be in the team every week. So yeah, it's 1-0 to Brighton.
Oh my goodness, and I was right there, by the way, by saying Plymouth have gone 1-0 up against Preston, a goal scorer yet to be confirmed to me in that one. I want to see this goal now. You're making me really want to watch the game. Oh, and it looks like Southampton have also gone 1-0 up against Fulham. Hopefully, we'll get an update from Chloe Geddes, our secret agent in the stands at St Mary's from there soon. But it looks like it was Jack Stevens who scored that one. So very interesting scenes at St Mary's there. So in the Premier League, it's currently Brighton 1, West Ham 0, Newcastle 0, Ipswich 0, Southampton 1, Fulham 0, and Wolves 0, Leicester 0. In the Championship, the only goals we have brought you so far is Preston 0, Plymouth 1, who are trying to avoid those relegation spots, and Sheffield Wednesday 1, Portsmouth 0. In League One, the only goal that we've brought you so far is Wigan 1, Blackpool 0, and that's still the only goal that's gone in across that division. And in League Two, apart from Salford against Colchester, who the home side have got the goal advantage there, that's the only goal we can bring you from that league as well. Freddie Kilby, any more updates from that National League South title battle?
Well, unfortunately, I've got no more goals since he last came back to me, but Eastbourne Borough and the Western-Supermare game, Western-Supermare have got a red card 14 minutes in, so that could tip the game towards Eastbourne Borough's advantage, but obviously Truro City are winning 3-0, so I mean, the title looks like to be in their hands at the moment, but it's up for them to, well, lose that. But Weymouth have also just scored against Chelmsford. That doesn't really mean much. Weymouth have already relegated, so that's a bit of a consolation, really. a little bit bittersweet, but yeah, that's the only update I've got so far. You know, the rest of the games are 0-0. Obviously, Aveley 1, Bath 0. Again, a game that doesn't really do much for either the relegation battle or the title battle. So you have to come back to me, hopefully, for some more goals a bit later.
Thank you very much, Freddie, and I will do that at some point, I'm sure, very soon. Joey, have you finally managed to recover your stream for Ipswich Newcastle?
It is recovered, and speaking of recovery, Eddie Howe's come onto my screen, so it almost sounds like that was perfect timing. And to be honest with you, the game is, the more open the game is, the more dangerous Ipswich look, which, you know, might seem like a more obvious statement because you'd expect Newcastle lots of the ball, but lots of their goals are produced by counter-attacking football for Newcastle. So it's an impressive performance so far from Ipswich, as much as I have to say that through gritted teeth. But yeah, they're in this game, and they're Liam Delap again. He's a handful. He's proven a real issue for Fabian Schär, who's I think already fouled him a couple of times, just because he's such a physical presence. So yeah, Ipswich are in this game.
Fabian Schär is clearly going to have to be very careful when it comes up to coming against Liam Delap. A lot of red cards already today across the Football League, so maybe a few more can go in the Premier League as well today. A few score lines across the National League to bring you as well. Barnet Aldershot is still 1-0 to Barnet. Gateshead have equalised against Boston United. Dagenham Redbridge are still 1-0 up against Altrincham. Ebbsfleet Maidenhead is still 0-0, and so is Halifax against Braintree, as well as Forest Green against Oldham. Oldham, a promotion-pushing playoff team at the moment in that league. Rochdale Hartlepool is now 1-1. Tamworth are 1-0 up against AFC Fylde. Yeovil 0, Sutton 0, York City 1, and Solihull Moors 0. No other goals to bring you as of yet across any of the other leagues, but is there any action over at Molineux, Jamie Summerfield?
There's just been a yellow card for Totti Gomez. A bit of play in midfield from Wolves. They lost the ball. Facundo Buonanotte and Jamie Vardy, it was kind of a 3-on-2 situation, and I think Totti Gomez just did what he had to do. Pulled back El Canouse, and yeah, it's free kick for Leicester, about 40 yards out at the moment.
Any chance of scoring?
I mean, if Sarr stays off his line, but I don't think that's where he'll stay for when they take the free kick.
Thank you very much for that, Jamie. As I mentioned earlier, we had a goal for Southampton, 1-0, a Jack Stevens goal. What's going on in the stands? Chloe Geddes.
I'll ask you guys your names,
We haven't quite got Chloe Geddes yet to bring you. We'll bring you that as soon as we can. But as I mentioned, that was a goal from Jack Stevens there, putting Southampton in the lead against Fulham. And as far as I'm aware, we can bring you that now. Chloe Geddes in the stands with her father. What's going on?
Southampton 1-0 up. Willian had a chance. He sent Ramsdale scrambling. Chance 2 minutes before, he sent Ramsdale scrambling to the left of his post. It just went wide from outside the box.
I don't think Chloe Geddes is keeping the whole secret agent thing a bit too secret at this point, but Domination's a song that we haven't heard really that much at St Mary's so far this season, so it's good to hear maybe Southampton doing something to keep the fans happy there, and that goal currently puts them above Derby County's 11-point record if the result stays that way, or of course Fulham equalise, a point is enough for them to beat that record. So thank you very much for that, Chloe Geddes, and we'll keep coming back to you for updates from the stands as Southampton take on Fulham in the Premier League. Fulham, of course, one of those teams who are gunning for those European spots so far this season, so tight between them all the way up to sort of Nottingham Forest really in that division. Guys, when you look at sort of teams like Fulham and Bournemouth, what they've done, it's so incredible considering, you know, the management that they've got. You look at Andoni Iraola, you look at the Fulham manager whose name has just slipped my mind, Marco Silva. Thank you very much. It's a lot to keep in the head right now, looking at all these tables of goals. I mean, what appointments they were for both those clubs to bring in.
Incredible, isn't it? Especially Bournemouth. Andoni Iraola is a really top-level manager coming from Rayo Vallecano, I believe it was. Not really known, but he's done a really good job. However, I think they're going to struggle this summer because I think Bournemouth are going to be absolutely raided for some of their stars. Semenyo, Holson, maybe even someone like Milos Kerkez. They could be in for a real tricky summer. But if they manage to keep as many of them as possible and Iraola, then they could keep pushing higher. And who says, what Champions League? Why can't they get that next season if they manage to keep all these players?
No, exactly. Dean Howson, one of those players which is constantly making the headlines at the moment for teams wanting to sign him. And I believe we can now throw live to Fareham Town against Andover New Street. Ollie Price is with some fans. I'm not sure for which side, but please tell us, Ollie.
Right, so I'm back here at Fareham, and we've got two guys enjoying the game today.
Yeah, it's been a good game so far. 1-0 up, so yeah, it's going well.
How are you?
Sun shining. It's nice to have a couple of drinks while watching the game. Yeah, 1-0 up. Everything's going really, really well.
And I've heard you guys have actually had some success yourself. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we're the managers of Gosport Barrow Under-15 Poppies. And we had a top of the table clash today, won 5-0, which means we'll technically win the league today, so we're buzzing.
Absolutely buzzing. He's the gaffer. It's all down to his hard work. But yeah, and the goals have been amazing. So really perfect day for us. We're a bit of a celebration today. So hopefully Fareham win as well.
There we go, perfect. And we'll go back to you guys in the studio. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ollie. I must say, Madry, interesting beer of choice. If you were a fan of a football game, guys, what's your beer of choice?
Oh, well, I'll take the lead on this.
This is not an ad, by the way.
Yeah, drink responsibly. At a football game, I think if your team's losing, whatever takes the edge off. if your team's winning, I'm saying a nice cold Corona to watch.
Okay.
But
with a lime in?
Have to have a lime.
Okay. Freddie D?
Corona. Would say Bovril, but that's a bit boring. Isn't it? But yeah.
Hey, whatever floats your boat.
Like Joe said, Corona with a lime in it. You can't go wrong.
Oh, Jamie, what's happening at Molineux?
Well, Hermansen just tried to clear it. It went straight into Strand Larsen's backside, and it didn't go in, but it was close enough that it got a reaction. But yeah, there's still no goals here, but it is looking like Wolves are on the front foot.
Oh, Joey, is something happening?
The ball is in the back of the net here. It's Newcastle that are wanting the goal, and it's Guimaraes that's run away in celebration. But the ball was headed away, and it was just very poorly claimed from the Ipswich goalkeeper Palmer. And he sort of ran into Guimaraes and has claimed that he's been fouled by Guimaraes. On field, it hasn't been given, but VAR is currently looking, and Guimaraes is adamant, pointing to his arm that it's just pure muscle. The VAR has said the decision's no goal, so still 0-0.
No goal. Thank you very much, Joey. We're now going to cross to another Premier League game with Chloe Geddes in the stands for Southampton. We believe there's been a penalty shout, but for who, Chloe? I'm not sure we can bring you that quite yet, but hopefully we can cross back to Chloe Geddes soon to bring you that. A bit more on that Newcastle disallowed goal there. Joey, what was the situation again?
Yeah, so Jacob Murphy had the ball on the right-hand side, and he's just delivered quite a long hanging cross into the box, which was initially met by Wiffinder, and he's gone to clear it and sort of 50 pins ahead, they call it, and it's gone up in the air in the wrong direction. And Palmer's gone to claim it, and Burgess has almost pushed Guimaraes into the goalkeeper, who's then fallen, and the ball's just hit Guimaraes and gone in, who sort of stood there completely aimlessly, knowing nothing about the goal he's just scored. In my opinion, it was quite a harsh one on Guimaraes because he's been pushed into the goalkeeper. But yeah, the referee stuck with the on-field decision, so we're still at 0-0.
I was going to ask your take on what you think that decision was going to be, but you answered my own question there. Thank you very much. Some more goals to bring you in the Championship. The majority of the game still 0-0, including that big clash at the bottom of the table between Hull and Derby. But Portsmouth have just equalised against Sheffield Wednesday. Looks like Harvey Blair, who doesn't normally play for Portsmouth, has been the goal scorer there on that end. And other goals to bring you in the Championship are none, in fact. Still Preston 0, Plymouth 1 is the only other scoreline of interest to bring you there. Across League One, it's currently Barnsley 0, Shrewsbury 1, Burton 0, Cambridge 0, Crawley 0, Northampton 0, Exeter 0, Huddersfield 1, Peterborough 1, Bolton 0, Stockport 0, Lincoln 1 and Wigan 1, Blackpool 0. Freddie Kilby, we haven't been to you in a while. What's that situation looking like in the National League South?
Not a lot is going on at the moment, Millie, to be honest with you. The only sort of goal worth mentioning is Chelmsford equalised against Weymouth, as I mentioned, who are already relegated. So it doesn't really have an impact on the hyped up title race that's happening and relegation battle as well. So hopefully we can see a bit more action coming a bit later. But yeah, I mean, it was a really great start in the first 10 minutes. You know, goals flying everywhere. Obviously, Truro City are 3-0 up, so it looks like in their favour at the moment. But unfortunately, in these past 15 minutes, not a lot has happened apart from that one goal. So hopefully we'll see a bit more action in the next 15.
Thank you very much, Freddie. We can also bring you some more score updates from all the way down in League 2. So from the 3 p.m. kickoffs, it's still Barrow 0, Bromley 0, Cheltenham 0, Carlisle 0, Chesterfield 0, Morecambe 0, Fleetwood 0, Newport 0, Gillingham 0, Swindon 0, MK Dons 0, Grimsby 0. Salford, however, 3-0 up against Colchester already, and we're only in the 27th minute. Tranmere 1-0 up against Crewe as well, and Walsall Accrington Stanley is still 0-0. Coming back to the Amex, Freddie Dorman, any much more action happened since that Brighton opener?
Not really, to be honest, Millie. Definitely West Ham are in this game a bit more. There was a lengthy VAR check, actually, which Mohamed Kudus was through on goal, and he was pushed in the back, and if he wasn't offside, it was almost a guaranteed penalty, but the the linesman gave offside, and after a lengthy VAR check, it was also agreed. But other than that, both teams just keeping the ball and looking for an opening. But that happened earlier, and then Ayari hit an absolute screamer from 30 yards out. So who knows? But it's still Brighton 1, West Ham 0.
Thank you very much. Freddie Dorman, please do keep me updated across the panel. Scream and shout as much as you like if anything happens. I believe we can go back to Winchester against Taunton, who are 1-0 up in their fight for relegation from the Southern Premier Division. Nathan Rawlings, what else has happened in this game?
Yep, thanks guys. 25 minutes gone now. It is Winchester City 1, Taunton Town 1. Taunton Town have put a dent in Winchester City's survival hopes. It's a scrappy goal headed in finally by forward Jayden Nilsson. The atmosphere is building, the drama is building. There are goals flying in across the league. Luckily for Winchester, a draw as it stands means they are staying up. Speaking of drama, there are yellow cards and tackles flying in everywhere. I think there's 4 yellow cards already, 3 for Winchester and 1 for Taunton. It's been an extremely end-to-end game. Both fans giving it their all. It seems a bit like a drum off. Both fans have got a drum, seeing who can bang it the loudest. Should be an exciting game, already been thrilling. So 25 minutes gone. It is Winchester City.
Thank you very much, Nathan Rawlings. I believe that scoreline must be still 1-1, as we couldn't quite hear him at the end as he reeled off that scoreline to us. A goal that's just gone in the Championship, slightly surprisingly. Oxford United 1-0 up against playoff pushing Sunderland. So big goal there in the Championship. Any other goals to bring you across the leagues? Not that I can see so far. Not many goals going in, especially across the Championship and League One. But Freddie Kilby, you're looking at me like you have something to say. What's going on in the National League South?
Yeah, as I mentioned previously, Millie, you can't rule anything out, and St Albans have just got a goal back, so it's 3-1 in that game, but they're not going down without a fight, clearly, and Boreham Wood have just taken the lead against Tonbridge Angels. So whether St Albans can manage to get 2 goals back, I don't know, but I wouldn't like to put any money on it, but you never know. And yeah, so a great comeback, hopefully, on the cards for them to try and stay up in the National League South.
Jamie, anything going on at Molineux so far?
No more big updates. Both teams have now had their first shot on target. So the first came from Leicester with a Conor Cody header from a corner, and the second just came from Mateus Cunha, received the ball just outside the box, but he slipped as he went to take the shot. It went straight down the throat of the goalkeeper.
Thank you very much, Jamie. And Joey, anything else happened since that disallowed goal for Bruno Guimaraes at St James's Park?
I have to say, I've got nothing particularly exciting to report, but what I am incredibly interested in is Sam Morsey and and Joe Willock have now been involved in two wrestling matches. So I know WrestleMania was last week, and actually it almost looks like these two are carrying it over. That is about as exciting as it's got for me so far. So I'm hoping that we can have a little bit less wrestling and a little bit more football. But yeah, still 0-0.
Thank you very much, Joey. I believe we can now as well go to another game in the National League South, but slightly more mid-table. Chippenham Town against Taunton. Jamie Onoshinsky, any goals gone in at either end?
Thank you, Millie. We are... Yes, thank you, Millie. Currently pitch side at Chippenham Town. Chippenham currently got a free kick from about 45 yards out. They're going to float into the box, but headline news is that Hornchurch are leading by a goal to 0. Charlie Adams' header from a free kick on 22 minutes has separated the two sides. Other than that, it's been a bit cagey, to be honest. For a mid-table game that absolutely nothing is really riding on. Both teams a little bit cagey, but Hornchurch lead by a goal to nil. Both sides made 3 changes into their teams coming into this one. But I will let you through this free kick. It's got the Luke Spokes lined up from it. Chippenham have players, a couple of them inside the penalty area, namely the 2 centre forwards, Captain Matt McClure and Harry Parsons. Luke Spokes is standing over this, waiting to deliver it in. Chippenham have all but their full-backs of Johnson and Evans forward. Spokes is going to chip it towards the penalty box. It's a header. It's come off of a player that the refereeing team thinks is a Chippenham body, so it's going to be a goal kick for Hornchurch. For the headline news, Hornchurch leading by a goal to nil. Charlie Adams header, 1-0 Hornchurch.
Thank you very much, Jamie, for that update from Chippenham Town. Of course, we will come back to him whenever there are any more action down at that stadium. Some other goals to maybe bring you, or not, sorry, I had a thing flashing on my screen, but clearly no goal gone in there. But I must mention, actually, I forgot to say, when that Oxford United goal went in against Sunderland, that's quite big in the battle for relegation down at the bottom of the Championship. So tight down there, not necessarily good for teams like Stoke, who are looking to avoid those places at the bottom. Joey, I heard a little ooh from you and a little ooh from Freddie. Who do I go to first? We'll go to Freddie first. It's a little bit more fresh.
Sorry, Joey, but I said about Thomas Souček's aerial ability, and he's just had a header that's been tipped onto the bar by Bart Verbruggen, the Brighton goalkeeper. It's a brilliant ball in, curling towards the middle of the box, and yeah, Souček rose above the defenders, and his header was tipped onto the bar, but almost a way back for West Ham, but it remains Brighton 1, West Ham 0.
Thank you very much, Freddie. And we had a little ooh from you, Joey, whilst we were hearing from Jamie at Chippenham. Anything going on there at St James's Park?
You definitely picked the right ooh, because mine was not as exciting as Freddie's. Mine was actually because Ben Johnson got booked for a simulation for Ipswich, but had the referee decided that it was a foul by Dan Burn, it would have been a red card for Dan Burn. Ben Johnson actually drove really nicely through the midfield, and then had the ball in a one-on-one with Dan Burn, and took it onto his right-hand side, Dan Burn's left, and Dan Burn just sort of dangled a leg out and then withdrew his leg just as Ben Johnson went hurtling to the floor over it, so correct decision.
Elsewhere in the Premier League, I did mention earlier that Chloe Geddes had an update for us with regards to a possible penalty shout at St Mary's Stadium, but did it go for Southampton or Fulham, Chloe?
Was literally throwing goal for his first Saints goal this season, but the Fulham defence came back, brought him down for a penalty. Everyone was so sure it was a penalty, ref did not give it. It's been end-to-end stuff so far. Jack Stevens has cleared 2 goals off the line, basically. He's been a rock today. He scored a goal, clearing the goal line clearance. From a season perspective, this has been the best game we've played all the season. Even though we're already down, if we played like this all season, we would not be the worst Premier League team ever. But we have. So how do you feel like this game's gone so far?
This game, 26 minutes, probably the best we've played so far. 1-0 up. Hopefully we're going to smash this Derby record and get it over with.
Thank you very much for that update there, Chloe. I mean, it's a bit too little too late for Southampton now with how well they seem to be playing in that game against Fulham this afternoon. But I'm sure we'll keep you updated to the rest of the ongoings that are going on in that game as well. And just a little personal story, guys, here. My dad is a Southampton fan. He was a Southampton fan. He is a Southampton fan. And he was telling me in the car as we were driving the other day, he was constantly moaning about Jack Stevens and how awful he's been for the majority of the season. But by the sounds of it, he's having an incredibly good game so far. And goal in the National League as well. Boston United now 2-1 up against Gateshead, but nothing else as of yet to bring you across the other leagues. But by the looks of it, we might be able to bring you an update from the Den, am I right in saying, with Billy and Diogo live at Millwall against Swansea. Is there anything we can bring you from that game, and is there anything happening there, gentlemen?
Between Millwall and Swansea, and it was a massive chance for Millwall, 1-on-1 with the keeper, but he's not managed to put it away. Do you have anything to add?
That was a massive chance. I can't believe that he missed that 1-on-1. Millwall, they've never been in the Premier League, so this is such a big game for them. Let's see how it goes.
Thank you very much, Diogo and Billy, from that update from one of the most iconic grounds across the Football League, the Den. And Jamie, Have we had any action at Molineux? Is there a goal?
There's finally a goal. It's Mateus Cunha. It's inevitable for Wolves to score through him. It was a nice little bit of play down the left-hand side, just inside the Leicester half, in between him and Aït-Nouri. Gives it to Aït-Nouri, gives it back, and then Aït-Nouri goes down the left, and it's probably the worst defending I've seen from Ndidi. Basically goes straight through him, and Cunha slips it between Hermansen's legs. But I have just seen that Mateus Cunha has now become joint with Martinelli and Firmino for the most goals scored by a Brazilian in the Premier League. So any more goals from him today, and he is the record holder.
Wow, very interesting stat there, Jamie, and it just keeps getting from bad to worse for Wolves by the looks of it. And Freddie Kilby on the end there, what have you got to tell us?
Well, since it's been an absolute goal fest, I'm not going to lie. Right, first of all, Eastbourne Borough, who are in that title race, are now 2-0 up against Weston-super-Mare. They're obviously pushing for it, but Truro City made me eat my words about a comeback because they scored their 4th goal straight after St Albans scored theirs. So it looks like Truro City pretty much will be champions, but you never know, as Torquay took the lead against Hemel Hempstead. They're 1-0 up. Chelmsford have all of a sudden come into life. They're now 3-1 up against Weymouth, despite going 1-0 down. So they've had some sort of resurgence. Hornchurch are 2-0 up against Chippenham. I'm sure Jamie Leginsky will bring us the actual updates from that game. It's been an absolute goal fest. I'm trying to keep up with it, really.
I don't think anyone can keep up with that. I don't blame you for getting the team names wrong on occasion, but Freddie Dominic, looks like something may be going on. Is it a goal, a chance?
Absolute goalmouth scramble that did end up in the back of the net, but the referee, well, the linesman has ruled it out for offside. Estepinian had a shot from the edge of the box that was fumbled by the goalkeeper, Areola, followed in by Wafer. He saved it again, and then Adingra had a tap in at the back post, and it went in the back of the net. They're checking right now for VAR, so you'll have to come back to me whether this goal is allowed. But an absolute goalmouth scramble that, if it does count, Areola will be very unhappy with his goalkeeper.
Oh, I can only imagine. And Joey, any goals more to bring us up to date on?
No goals, but I do have a red card, and the red card is for Ipswich, Ben Johnson mentioned earlier that he got. Sorry, yeah, I'll bring my excitement down a little bit. Mentioned earlier he got a yellow card for simulation, and this time Alexander Isak has just spun him on the left-hand side, racing towards goal, and Ben Johnson, obviously just forgetting he's on a yellow card, has grabbed him, pulled him back, and about as quickly as he turned around, he was then sent down the tunnel. So
not very clever,
now
is it?
Making their task a lot more difficult this afternoon.
Any updates on that VAR decision, Freddie?
It has been ruled out for offside, and Areola will be a very happy boy because that was terrible goal kicking from him. But Adingra thought he had put in Brighton 2-0 up, but it is still Brighton 1-0. Brighton 1-0? Brighton 1, West Ham 0.
Thank you very much for that update there, Freddie. So, yeah, red cards all over the leagues today. One for Ipswich, one for Luton, one for Coventry, and one for Bradford City so far. So maybe we should start a count on this, guys. Take a shot for every time someone gets a red card across the football leagues today. 2 more goals to bring you up to date on in League One. Crawley are currently 1-0 up against Northampton, and Exeter have equalised against Huddersfield. So that scoreline there is currently 1-1. And from what I'm seeing, we've had Millwall actually take the lead against Swansea at the Den, but yet to hear from Billy and Diogo on that. Other goals across the football leagues, just looking at the Championship, and the majority of the games, one of the important games anyway, is still 0-0. So Cardiff and West Brom is still 0-0. Hull and Derby, another huge game, still 0-0. Middlesbrough against Norwich 0-0, and Blackburn against Watford still 0-0. Anywhere else to bring you goals from? Not quite yet. It's a little bit of a dry spell across the football league. So I think we might have to go back to Freddie Kilby, because I can imagine there could be some more goals going in over there.
Well, unfortunately not, Millie. But as you was talking about that shot game, you might need to give me a shot, because AV just got a red card. So that's 2.
Does anyone want to bring the vodka in?
That's 2 across the National League South now, and I'm sure as it's the final game of the season, we'll see quite a few more. Hopefully not for those teams that are probably going to go into the playoffs, but you never know. Players want to go out with a bang, don't they? Quite literally. So
what is that situation with Truro there? If they win today, are they promoted?
That is true. They'll be the title winners.
Truro.
They'll be 89 points. Obviously, Torquay are winning as well, but 4-1, the goal difference would be more significant than Torquay's. Unless Torquay really do pull it back and win about 5 or 6-0, the title looks to be in Truro's hands.
Thank you very much, Freddie. Sticking with the National League South, Freddie did bring us up to date earlier with a second goal for Hornchurch, and I believe Jamie Oleshinsky can talk us through that goal now.
So, Hornchurch 2-0 up here at the Thornbury Surfacing Stadium. It was Darren McQueen who got the Urchins 2-0 in front. Chippenham lost the ball in the middle of the park, and then down the left-hand side, Hornchurch just got in there, and his challenge comes in. The ball just in front of me nearly touches me. Harley Vosser had a chance a few moments ago as well. He nearly nabbed his first Bluebirds goal in the first team. Chippenham Town are going to have a throw-in from this right-hand side, but it won't be Luke Haynes, their traditional long ball taker. It'll be Jake Evans to throw it in, so it doesn't really look like much is going to be happening. But our Hornchurch lead by 2-0 in the National League South game that nobody cares about.
Thank you very much for that update there, Jamie. Not looking too good for Chippenham Town, who sit just in the middle of the table of National League South at the moment. Luckily, nothing at stake for them there. Of course, we know your Premier League scores so far this afternoon. Brighton 1, West Ham 0, Newcastle 0, Ipswich 0. Ipswich, of course, down to 10 men, though. Southampton are 1-0 up against Fulham, thanks to that goal from Jack Stevens, and Wolves 1-0 up against Leicester. Current League One scorelines, which I didn't get to bring you earlier. Barnsley 0, Shrewsbury 1, heading towards the half-time mark. Burton 0, Cambridge 0, Crawley 1, Northampton 0, Exeter 1, Huddersfield 1, Peterborough 1, Bolton 1, Stockport are 1-0 down as they host Lincoln. Wigan are 1-0 up against Blackpool, an early goal in those games there. In League Two, Barrow have just struck first blood against Bromley. They've gone 1-0 up. Cheltenham Carlisle is a goal apiece. Chesterfield against Morecambe is still 0-0, and Fleetwood Newport is interrupted according to my screen. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I can try and find out what's going on there. It looks like there's a stoppage in that game. And Gillingham Swindon is also a 0-0. MK Dons against Grimsby is also 0-0. Salford 3-0 up against Colchester, and Tranmere 1-0 up against Crewe. And Walsall trailing by a goal as they host Accrington. Joey, your head was in your hands a little bit there. What's going on?
I just cannot believe that Newcastle haven't scored. They've had 2 goal-mouth scrambles and now another one cleared off the line. It was Bruno Guimaraes again who has been in the thick of things this afternoon, and it's Harvey Burns headed the ball back across the box, and very acrobatically Guimaraes has kicked it back over his head, beaten Alex Palmer, but he just sees Woofenden knock the ball over the crossbar for what must be their 7th corner in about as many minutes. It is all Newcastle at the moment, and Ipswich are doing a very good job to hang on here.
Jamie Somerville, any more action as Wolves take on Leicester?
There's not much of a change. It's still consistently Wolves attacking. Decordova-Reid's currently on the floor at the moment, so it's probably a good break in play. But I think all that we are going to see today, unless Leicester somehow pull something out of nowhere, it could be 3 or 4-0 to Wolves. And Cunha and Strand Larsen are the 2 that are involved in every single play. Without those 2, I think it would be a lot closer. Do
you think Wolves would probably likely be in that relegation battle a little bit more if they didn't have the talents like Cunha and Hall and Strand Larsen up front?
I mean, we saw they were at one point, even with those 2 players, and it shows kind of how quickly things can change. I mean, it's 5 wins in a row. It's going to be 6 for the first time ever, as I said earlier. And that is the sort of form that gets you out of those battles. Obviously, if Wolves look to lose Cunha, which it seems like that's going to be the case, they were one of the teams I mentioned earlier as smart recruiters. And how you replace Cunha, I'm not too sure, but fees like 60 million coming in from Manchester United will give you a nice amount to kind of reinvest and hopefully make sure they're not in that battle next year.
And they've also been a very smart club from a management perspective as well this season, getting rid of Gary O'Neill and putting Vitor Pereira in that chair, because he's really turned the form around for Wolves, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's 2 months since they last lost in 90 minutes. Obviously, a loss in the FA Cup to Bournemouth on penalties, where Cunha missed out towards the end, and yeah, it's been great from Vitor Pereira.
No goal! Oh my word! Sorry, Jamie.
No, Joey, come on. What's
sorry, Tonali has just hit the crossbar from 25 yards out with an absolute thunderbolt of an effort. It's been cut back to him from Jacob Murphy, and on the full first time, he's absolutely fired it to Alex Palmer's left-hand side. He was beaten. He was nowhere near the ball. And then the ball's been crossed back into the box by Guimaraes, again in the thick of it. Dan Burn has put it towards goal. It's been cleared off the line again by Woofenden, who's an absolute rock of a game at the back as well. Newcastle, I don't know how they haven't scored. They've got another chance here with Merck on the right-hand side. He shoots. That's blocked. Throw in for Newcastle, somehow still 0-0.
Well, it looks like you might have the most entertaining game there, Joey, but not necessarily the most entertaining scoreline by the looks of it. Have we had any more happen at the Amex, Freddie, since we last checked in with you?
No, I think I've been spending more time looking at Joey's laptop, to be honest. But West Ham, they're trying to get back into the game, but their only outlet is putting a ball into the box for Thomas Souček, but that's not working, which you think, why not just put Nicholas Fulkrug on, because he's the big aerial threat. Obviously, at the end of last week, he had that quite bizarre rant about how West Ham don't have the mindset and that they're not, they haven't got the players to carry out what Graham Potter wants. But so far, it's still Brighton 1, West Ham 0, and there's 2 minutes left of this first half. Yeah,
we've reached half-time in quite a few of our games across the Football League so far. None of the Premier League games quite yet to reach half-time, but half-time games in the Championship, it's Millwall 1, Swansea 0, and Oxford United 1, Sunderland 0. Half-time in League 2, some games that have reached that midway point, Barnsley 0, Shrewsbury 1, Crawley 1, Northampton 0, not Southampton. That would be quite interesting if it was Southampton. Stockport 0, Lincoln 2, and Wigan 1, Blackpool 0. And half times that we've reached in League 2, Barrow lead Bromley by a goal to 0, and MK Dons Grimsby is still a 0-0, and so is Walsall trailing Accrington 1-0 at the break there. Freddie, have we reached half-time in any of those National League South games?
Yeah, a couple at Millie, Aveley and Bath. Aveley are leading 1-0, that's half-time, and Weymouth are 3-1 down at home to Chelmsford City, that's also half-time. And as I was saying that, Farnborough and Maidstone are half-time, that's 1-1 there. I've just had a couple of goals towards the bottom of the table actually. Welling United 0, Salisbury 1, so that's a good result for them so far. Enfield Town 0, Worthing 1, so it doesn't really shake too much up in terms of the title race. You know, Truro City looks to have that secured, but Enfield Town will be slightly nervous. They'll probably be thanking Truro City actually, because St Albans are the ones that are taking that last relegation spot. Unless something dramatic really happens and Enfield Town could get relegated. But so far, it looks all good for those couple of teams, but St Albans are in danger.
Have we reached half? Go on, Joey.
And you'll win no prizes for guessing who it is for. It is for Newcastle. Or it wasn't given on the screen. Julio Encicio is the man that's been penalised for a pull on the shirt of Jacob Murphy. It was a well-worked move from Newcastle. The ball found its way into Guimaraes in the midfield, and he just slotted a pass in between the two defenders, and Encicio, being the wrong side of Jacob Murphy, pulled him down, and Newcastle will now have a chance to take the lead from the penalty spot.
Who's going to take it by the looks of things?
You would imagine, and it looks to be Alexander Isak, so I'd imagine quite a few fantasy Premier League players, including myself, will be hoping that this does from the back of the net.
Hands up on the desk if you've got Isak in your fantasy team. Freddie.
I've not checked my fantasy team in about 4 months. That would be the reason why.
You're too busy looking at the National League South, that's why.
I didn't captain him though, so I'm not sure whether I want this one to go.
Oh.
Well, it does say here that he has scored 4 of his last 5 penalties. Obviously, right on the stroke of half-time this as well, so it would be a very, very good time to score, as the cliche goes. Ipswich will probably see themselves as a bit hard done by. They've defended incredibly resolutely up until this point, but it looks like now Aslan is about to step up and try and make it 1-0 to Newcastle. So here we go. Hands on the hips, Angel of the North. Alexander Isak steps up with his right foot, scores, just about goes in, and it sends Alex Palmer the right way, but he just couldn't quite move. He waited late, did the goalkeeper, to move. We've seen a lot of this recently where goalkeepers are waiting for the players to go. Isak goes to his right-hand side, Alex Palmer's left, and it's just out of the reach of the Ipswich goalkeeper. So Newcastle do take the lead, and they will go in to half-time with a 1-0 lead.
Thank you very much, Joey. I believe we can also cross back to Millwall now, and Diogo and Billy have a half-time update for us.
It is 1-0 here at the Den. Millwall 1-0 up, roughly around the 30th minute. Ball was ricocheting around the box, comes to the back post where George Saville taps it in for a good 1-0 start. Joe, what did you think about that goal?
Yeah, it was a really scrappy goal, but right now, Millwall don't care about that. The only thing that matters is getting the 3 points, literally minutes after number 11. Femi Aziz, he hit the post and he literally now just shot as well. He's having a great game. This is brilliant. I'm loving the atmosphere. 1-0
Still 1-0 Millwall.
So that game gone into the break, 1-0 there. Thank you very much, Diego and Billy, for that update. And I believe we can also go to Winchester City, who take on Taunton for their half-time update there from the Southern Premier South.
Yep, thank you, Millie. It's half-time here at the Charters Community Stadium. The score is Winchester City 1, Taunton Town 1. Goals from Tommy Wright for Winchester and Jayden Nielsen for Taunton. The big news here, however, is that because results have not gone the citizens' way, Winchester City, as it stands, are in the relegation zone. Tiverton Town are 1-0 up at Marlow at the break. So Winchester City slip down into 19th and are a point behind as it stands. It is all in their hands. A big 45 minutes needed for the team in red and black. It's do or die football for them. 1-1 here at the Charters Community Stadium. A big second half needed for Winch if they're wanting to survive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan Rawlins, for that update. All fingers crossed here in the studio for Winchester City to get out of that relegation zone. I believe it's reached half-time in all of our games here on the panel. Freddie, what have you made of both Brighton and West Ham's performances so far?
I think the word to describe this first half is lacklustre. Both teams struggling with creativity. Brighton missing João Pedro, that's perhaps why. West Ham, they haven't done anything, to be honest. Wan-Bissaka is their biggest creative threat, and I think that says a lot coming from right back. But as I said, it was Yasin Ayari in the 13th minute with an absolute wonder goal that came out of nowhere to put Brighton 1-0 up. But other than that, there hasn't been much to write home about. So yeah, there's still, at half-time, Brighton 1, West Ham 0.
Jamie, have we reached the break at Molineux yet?
Yes, we have it. We had 5 minutes of added time. As I said, De Cordova-Reid was down on the floor for well, probably 5 minutes. He got brought off for Jordan Ayew. But the first half finished with a Mateus Cunha free kick, but it hit the wall. So it's still 1-0 Wolves.
And Joey, just to double check, Newcastle have gone into the break 1-0 up against
They have gone into the break 1-0 up, yeah. They just blown. I think it's going to be a bit frustrating, not in the sense that they don't deserve to be behind, but they did so well to get to that point without conceding it, to concede right on the stroke of half-time from a penalty which probably could have been avoided. It's a frustrating way to concede a goal, and in a situation that they're in where they need to win today to stay in the league. They needed a miracle anyway, but now it's, I don't even know what you'd call past a miracle, but yeah, long way back for them.
Well, it's inevitable really that they're going to get relegated. So it's now or later on in the season, really, isn't it? Freddie Kilby, what is the National League South table looking like as we head into the half-time of those games?
Yeah, thank you, Millie. So the table is looking really interesting at the moment. We have got Truro, who are leading on 89 points. Torquay are just below them, also 89 points, but obviously there's a 3-goal difference in between those two sides. Eastbourne Borough third, 88 points. And if you've got 88 points over a campaign, you'd be feeling quite hard done by that. You've got to go into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
It's the way the world works, unfortunately. Yeah, so they're on 88 points. Worthing are just below them, also on 88 points, winning their game as well. And also Boreham Wood are winning, and they're on 86 points. And Dorking Wanderers on 84 points. So still a hot contest, but looking like Truro might walk away with this title.
Very, very interesting in that 6-way battle for promotion in the National League South this afternoon. Now, what I want from you four is your red card guesses at half-time, because there's been a few extra since I last mentioned it. Freddie D, you go first.
How many you've had across all the divisions?
Yes.
I'm gonna go
down to the National League.
Okay, I'm going to go for 5.
5. Joey?
Including games earlier today? Or
yes.
Okay. I'm going to go 9.
I'll go 8 because my guess would have been 9, but I don't think it'll be 10.
Okay, Freddie Kilby.
Do you know how many we've had so far, Millie? I've not got a clue. I'd say I'll just go 10.
You're going to go 10.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I'm going to leave you guys in suspense for a minute because I believe we've got a half-time update from Chloe Geddes, our secret agent at St Mary's Stadium as Southampton host Fulham in the Premier League. Chloe, what's the update?
It's half-time. Saints are 1-0 up against Fulham. Saints were actually clapped off today. Normally it's surrounded by boos. Fulham could have scored in the last 20 seconds of that half, but Saints have been disciplined, ambitious, and played as a team. It's a team sport today. Normally it's not a team sport, but we've been ambitious, disciplined. It's what we've been missing this season, really. I think we sacked Russell Martin too early, although the fans were the driving force behind that, but if I could go back, I would keep Russell Martin, because he brought the community side to it. The Saints fans were together, but it did get tough watching it. It did get tough, but if I could go back, I'd keep Russell Martin. Simon Russ has brought some familiar side out of Saints today. They know what they're doing, they know what they've been asked to do, and they've made a connection with the manager. Ivan Jurek didn't make that connection this season, so that's where it's been gone.
Thank you very much, Chloe, for that. I look forward to hearing more updates from a very interesting tie in the Premier League in the second half, right? Can I get a drum roll for the red cards, please? 7.
Oh. So no one got it?
So no one got it.
Oh, that was quite...
That's really anticlimactic, actually. But interestingly, Burton and Cambridge United in the same game, of course. Both of those sides have got red cards, so similar to the situation from Luton against Coventry earlier on this afternoon. Just to bring you a roundup of all the other half-time scores from top to bottom. Brighton West Ham, of course, finished 1-0. All the Premier League games finishing 1-0 at half-time, actually. Newcastle Ipswich 1-0, Southampton Fulham 1-0, and Wolves Leicester 1-0. Half-time in Blackburn against Watford in the Championship is 0-0, so is Cardiff against West Brom, and Hull versus Derby, and Middlesbrough against Norwich. Millwall 1-0 up going into the break, so Oxford against Sunderland, and Plymouth 1-0 up. Big game for them in terms of relegation survival in the Championship, so they're 1-0 up going to the break against Preston, and Sheffield Wednesday 1, Portsmouth 1 is the half-time score at Hillsborough. In League One, Barnsley and Shrewsbury 1-0 up against Barnsley going into the break. Burton at Cambridge still 0-0, both teams down to 10 men as we mentioned going into half-time. Crawley 1-0 up as they host Northampton in League One at half-time. Exeter 1, Huddersfield 1 at half-time, Peterborough 1, Bolton 1, Stockport 0, Lincoln 2, and Wigan 1, Blackpool 0 are the League One half-time scores. Looking a little bit further down in League Two, Barrow 1-0 up against Bromley, Cheltenham 2-1 up against Carlisle, Chesterfield 1-0 up against Morecambe, Fleetwood Newport is a 0-0, so is Gillingham, Swindon, and MK Dons against Grimsby. Salford haven't scored any more goals since I mentioned their 3-0 lead, which is how it stands at half-time against Colchester. Tranmere 1, Crewe 1, and Walsall 0, Accrington Stanley 1 at half-time. Looking at the National League as well, Barnet are 2-0 up against Aldershot, so it looks very likely that they're going to clinch that National League title and promotion to the Football League this afternoon. Boston 2-1 up against Gateshead, Dagenham and Redbridge 4-1 up against Altrincham, Ebbsfleet 0-0 against Maidenhead, FC Halifax 0, Braintree 0-2, Forest Green 1-0 up against Oldham, and Rochdale 3-1 up against Hartlepool. Tamworth AFC Fylde, that game currently stands as Tamworth 2, AFC Fylde 3, Tamworth down to 10 men, and Yeovil are 1-0 up against Sutton United, and York City are 1-0 up against Solihull Moors. So that's all the goals I can bring you up to date with looking at the Football League so far. And Freddie, what are West Ham going to have to do to try and get back on that front foot against Brighton at the Amex in the second half?
They need to be a bit more creative. They've actually had more possession than Brighton, which I thought was quite surprising, to be honest. But their only tactic, like I said, is ball into the box and hope Thomas Souček with his late run into the box gets his head on it. But that just isn't working with Lewis Dunk at the back. He's winning every header like he always does. But it might be worth getting someone like Nicholas Fulkruggen, because that acts as a target man again, and maybe even someone like Guilherme to be a bit more creative, because that is something West Ham are missing. But so far, it's not been a happy return to the Amex for Graham Potter. And it looks like, as it stands, he's going to come away with another loss.
Oh dear. And we also have an update as well, going back to the Wessex League, where Ollie Price is at the playoff final between Fareham and Andover New Street. Ollie, what's the score at half-time?
Hello, I'm here inside Farnham, and it's 1-0 to Farnham. It was a great goal by number 8, and we just want to put it out. What a lovely game we have here today. Obviously, I've got my Madry. It's been really nice. You've got a Mr. Whippy. You've got a Rico's Kitchen with smash burgers. I know how popular they are nowadays, and I absolutely love them. And look at that beautiful stand there as well. It's absolutely amazing. So many good vibes here today. Everyone's loving life. They 1-0 up. What's not to love, to be honest? Got a beer here, and everyone's having a good time here. That's one thing about these non-league clubs is everyone's having a great time. Hello. What do you want to say about Fareham?
Who?
The team. Go on.
They're shit.
Okay, they're really bad. Okay, there we go. Anyway, we'll go back to you in the studios then.
Thank you very much for that, Ollie, but I do have to apologise for the language there. I didn't realise kids spoke like that these days. But fair enough, if you think what you think of your team, what you think of your team. So thanks for that kid for being honest anyway. We saw Ollie with the beer in his hand as well there. Sorry guys, I can't stop laughing. That was really quite comical. We only asked you two actually for your beers of choice. Jamie, did we get down to you? Or are you not a drinker these days after the red wine incident?
Yeah, well, you do make a good point. There was a time that I did have to stop. Yeah, the red wine incident, I don't think we will explain that much more, but it's self-explanatory.
Best not to.
But yeah, it won't be wine at the football or ever, but it's usually cider. I'm from Somerset, so beer never really reached that way.
Cider of choice?
Thatcher's, but usually at the football it's something else, whatever the pint of choice there. But yeah, Thatcher's is, if they've got Thatcher's, I'll be on that all the time.
Freddie, you a beer man on the end?
Yeah, I'm a beer man, Millie, but I'm known for being financially tight, so whatever the cheapest one on draft will do me quite well.
Aldi or Lidl's own? Do you bring your own to the ground maybe sometimes?
You can't do that. You won't get away with it these
days. You never know.
Well.
Shove it up your jumper or something. We'll never find out. I'm not promoting that though, just so we know, just to make that very clear. Looking at the relegation battles across the league so far this afternoon, as it stands, it is of course Ipswich, Leicester and Southampton in the relegation spots. Leicester and Southampton of course already relegated from the Premier League down to the National League. In the Championship, it's looking like Derby, Plymouth and Cardiff still in those relegation spots. Luton just above and Preston above them as well. In League One, currently the 4 teams under that dreaded red line are Crawley, Bristol Rovers, Cambridge United and Shrewsbury Town. And in League Two, Carlisle and Morecambe are the 2 who look likely to be relegated there as well. Any other games kicked off? Have we had any restarts in your guys' games across the panel?
Mine is just about to kick off, and I think I could probably give Graham Potter a run for his money here because he has brought on Nicholas Fulcrum, like I suggested. Not clear who he's coming on for just yet, but yeah, he's bringing on a big target man to try and change this game. And it looks like it might even be for James Ward-Prowse, the ex-Southampton man. So there's a very weird change of tactics here, but let's see if it works out for them.
Well, what do you make of the sort of changes that Graham Potter's made since he's come into that West Ham team? Because I don't think it was an appointment that necessarily anyone expected to happen. You'd imagine Graham Potter maybe at a slightly higher up Premier League team.
Yeah, well, Lopetegui was definitely struggling, wasn't he? So they needed to change it there. But to be considering he was out for quite a while, there didn't seem to be too many job offerings for him. He was linked with maybe the England job or maybe higher up, someone like that. But his time at Chelsea really did seem to get to him, didn't it? And West Ham is a team that have gambled on him. I don't think he's doing a terrible job, but it's one to look for the summer, isn't it? You let him bring the players he wants in the summer and see how they get on. But so far, it's been a bit of a tricky start.
Definitely, you can certainly say that again. Any kickoffs in your guys' games, either at Mollocks or St James's Park? No. Okay, Freddie.
Yeah, well, I've had 3 restarts. Avey and Bath have restarted.
Any goals?
No. Not yet, anyway. Farnborough, Maidstone restarted, and so have Weymouth and Chelmsford. Weymouth and Chelmsford have played 4 minutes already, so they must have kicked off quite early. But that's all I've had so far, so hopefully get some goals soon enough.
Please do keep me updated. Anyway, looking at some other sports news today, we've got Ronnie O'Sullivan playing, of course, at the Crucible in the World Snooker Championships. He's currently at a 4-frame lead, which unsurprising, and even I'm not a big snooker fan, and I know that's not surprising. Any other games to kick off so far as we're looking at the games? No goals and nothing to... Oh, no, Stockport have got a goal back against Lincoln. That scoreline currently stands at Stockport 1, Lincoln 2. That's 4 minutes into the second half. No other goals to bring you as of yet so far across the football pyramid. When we look at sort of the situation in the Championship with so many teams, guys, that could be promoted and loads of teams that could also be relegated, what do you think the massive split in that league is down to? I mean, Joey, you watch a lot of Championship football, don't you? So what do you think that's down to?
Well, I think that the Championship's always been one of the most competitive divisions. In my opinion, it is the best league in the world, because I think that anyone can genuinely beat anyone, and obviously you don't really see that in the top leagues. You know, you expect teams to win in the Premier League, but in the Championship, you feel like anyone's got a chance against anyone, and that's probably part of the reason why there are so many teams that are involved at both ends of the table, because you know, there's not an easy game in the Championship.
No.
So
it's a cliche, but it's true.
Yeah. So I mean, the relegation battle is interesting because you know, I mean, I'm not sure if Plymouth are still winning, but they were written off by pretty much everyone. Everyone was saying that Luton were going to go back to back, and now they're out of the relegation zone. But then by 5 o'clock tonight, that could all be different. So yeah, it's a great league to watch. But I think the reason that there's so many different teams involved, anyone can beat anyone.
I've got a goal.
Who's it for?
It's
Freddie Dorman?
West Ham. So Graham Potter's tactics have clearly worked. It's 3 minutes into the second half, they've equalised. Wan-Bissaka, I said he was dangerous in the first half. He slipped in Jarrod Bowen down the right. He was cool and composed, took his time to put the ball into the box, rolled it along the floor, and it was Mohamed Kudus there at the back post just to tap it in. It was quite poor defending, to be honest, from Brighton, and I'm sure Hertz is not going to be very happy, but it's a brilliant response from West Ham. So Brighton won, West Ham won.
Wow, very interesting stuff there, getting very tight clearly at the Amex Stadium. Joey, has your game at St James's Park got back underway yet?
Millie, it's as if you were refereeing it yourself. It is just underway, no changes for either side. But obviously you'd imagine a shift in the way that the game's going to be played now. I'd imagine Ipswich will probably sit on the edge of the box and hope to get something on the counter-attack. But yeah, just back underway, yeah.
And Jamie, you had a lot of stoppage time in that game at Molineux going into half-time. Any action to report so far in the second half? Have you not even kicked off yet?
Just the 2 substitutions. It looks like Leicester are going to try and solidify. Buonanotte's off for Casey McAteer and Bakary Soumare's off for Ollie Skip. So it just looks like they're putting more bodies in the midfield and hoping not to get overrun by the Wolves' attack.
Thank you very much for that, Jamie. And Freddie Kilby, any goals to update us on in the National League South?
Not yet, Millie. I mean, it's only been about 5 minutes in most games. Quite a relatively quiet start compared to what I had in the first half. I mean, Hemel Hempstead and Torquay are still half-time, so there must have been a bit of delay towards the start of the game there. Not sure what's happened, but hopefully everything's all right, and that should soon get restarted.
Thank you very much for that update, Freddie. And in the National League South as well, we can also bring you another update from Chippenham against Hornchurch. Jamie, are the tides turning in Chippenham's favour, or have Hornchurch got another one back?
Well, yes, thank you, Millie. And you've come to me at an unfortunate time for that question, because no, they are not. Hornchurch have just scored to make it 3-0. Angelo Balanta from the right-hand side thunders one into the near post top corner. Delight for Hornchurch, agony for Chippenham, because they know that they're probably not going to finish top half now. But that's all that really there has been playing for them. Hornchurch ecstatic. They've got something like a 250-mile journey for some of them back home. But they're going to be ecstatic as they lead by 3-0. Angelo Balanta with the third, 3 minutes into the second half.
Chippenham Town is it so far, Jamie, but we shall keep you up to date in case the tides do turn over there at Chippenham. No other goals so far to bring you across the Oh, no. Watford have gone 1-0 up against Blackburn again. That's another bit of a mid-table clash where I think everyone is probably on the beach, to be quite honest. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. No goals in League One or League Two or the National League to bring you so far yet. Anything happened since that West Ham equaliser in that game there, Freddie?
Just as Jamie was talking, we had a bit of a goal-mouth scramble that ended up with Dunk having a volley, but that went just wide. And as you've come to me again, Brighton playing some really nice football. The first half I said was lacklustre. This one's definitely been high energy. It was a ball into the box, and it was Max Wiefer with his head on it, around 6 yards out. But it was straight at Alphonse Areola, who just palmed it away. But a really good, energetic start to this first half. But still Brighton 1, West Ham 1.
Thank you very much, Freddie. Back down to the Wessex League we go now. I believe Ollie Price is there to chat with some more fans again. Not sure if they're for Fareham or for Andover. Ollie, what have you got for us?
On. Hello, right, so we're out here, sorry, something just happening with the football. We're here with some Fareham fans. It's a penalty, I think. Ooh. Anyway, while we're getting back, so what's your guys' names?
Archie.
Ollie.
Noah.
Noah. And so can you guys tell me, like, what do you like about coming here to Fareham and, watching the games?
It's just good Fareham quality.
Yeah, nice.
It's just good atmosphere, good day out.
Yeah, sunny today. Nice vibe.
I like watching the players. There's a lot of quality in this Fareham side.
Nice. And obviously, you seem like you're the most knowledgeable about Fareham. How has their season been going?
I think it's been a very good season. Playoff final, can't really complain. Unlucky with the games against Portchester, but apart from that, no complaints.
We've got a penalty, actually. Whoa, and a goal! Fareham. Penalty goal. Lovely caught. Who scored? Stan Bridgman scored. Penalty Fareham. It's now 2-0 to Andover. No, against Andover, sorry. Fareham, we'll go back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much for that, Ollie, there. It's glad to see that none of those fans are using any foul language when it comes to talking about their team. So Fareham 2-0 up against Andover New Street, looking hopefully to move up to step 3 in that playoff final if the scoreline stays the same. So it looks like it's all action in that game for West Ham and Brighton at the Amex Stadium. Joey, any more action to bring us from Newcastle against Ipswich?
Yeah, a half chance for Harvey Barnes. He hasn't really been particularly involved today. Obviously, Newcastle have kept the same front three for a lot of games in a row now, with sort of the resurgence of form with Murphy and Isak being ever present. But Barnes has sort of been, he's been quiet, and a lovely move actually, starting with Tonali, put it through the midfield. And Barnes had a half chance 25 yards out, but instead of finding the corner of the goal, he managed to find some fans in probably the upper tier. So he'll have to do better next time if he gets another opportunity. But yeah, still Newcastle 1, Ipswich 0.
Thank you very much, Joey. And then there's also been a big chance down in that relegation battle game, Winchester against Taunton in the Southern Premier Division. Who's that chance gone for? Nathan Rawlings, please tell us.
Yep, big chance for both sides actually here at the Charters Community Stadium. The score remains 1-1 with 55 minutes to go. Firstly then, Taunton came on the attack. A great ball into the box, headed at the far post. Goalkeeper Luke Kearney dives strongly to his right and clears the ball off the line. It looked to be a certain goal to almost bury Winchester City in that relegation zone. But then it wasn't over there. Winchester City came back almost immediately. Tommy Wright brought a ball down, is lifted over beautifully by Barron, slotted it in on his left foot. It looks to be rolling into that bottom right corner, but it rolled just past the post. It is getting tasty down here in Winchester. Could go absolutely either way. As I said, Winch still in that relegation zone. Results are not going that way. They need a win. A huge 35 minutes left to go here. It's going to be exciting. 1-1 then at the Charters Community Stadium.
Looking forward to hearing more from you later on. Nathan Rawlings, seems like a really interesting tie down at the Charters Community Stadium. A big goal in League One to bring you. Burton have just gone 1-0 up against Cambridge. Both teams down to 10 men, but if Cambridge United lose today, they are relegated down to League Two. So currently, that is how it stands. Jamie, what's going on at Molineux? Head in your hands there.
Yeah, Wolves should have been 2-0 there. There was just, the ball was bouncing about in the box. Ait Nori played it to Strand Larsen. I've got the replay here. So 25 yards out, the ball's down the left. Undercutting run, but Ait Nori decides to shoot. It bounces off Manetzi. The player out wide shoots, comes off the keeper, comes to Strand Larsen no more than 3 yards out. And he must have put on the wrong boots today because he's shoveled that right over. As I said, it's easier to score than miss, but it's still 1-0.
Thank you, Jamie. And Freddie, you're writing down something there. Anything interesting going on in that six-way tie for the title in the National League South?
Well, Millie, we've had a few goals since you last came to me. Worthing have gone 2-0 up at Enfield Town. Midfielder Jack Spong with the goal. Chelmsford have gone 4-1 up since going 1-0 down against Weymouth, who are already relegated. So massive resurgence for them. You know, they are still mid-table. And then Aveley are now on 2 red cards, down to 9 men. They're firm bottom at the table, so I don't really know what's going on over there, but they don't really seem to care.
No, clearly they have stopped caring.
But that's all I've got so far.
Well, thank you very much for that update, Freddie. Another goal in League One to bring you. Exeter have gone 2-1 up against Huddersfield. And there is also a penalty shout for Salford, who are already 3-0 up against Colchester. And current top sitters of the National League, Barnet, have gone 4-0 up against Aldershot. And if they win today, they will be promoted to League Two as champions from the National League. Joey, looking like a little bit of action might be going on there?
Well, I actually was having an internal debate with myself, and that's why my puzzling look probably came from.
That's not concerning at all.
No, don't worry. But my debate was, Liam Delap, obviously we mentioned him earlier on the show, talking about the strengths he has as an all-round striker and where he'll look to be next year. Could today potentially be an audition for him to join somebody like Newcastle? Could it be an opportunity for him to put himself not just in the shop window for clubs in general, but to directly perform in front of a potential manager? Because he, despite the fact that it's just down to 10 men, he is still very involved. There's no ends to his work rate. He's doing as much as he can to hold the ball up when he gets the chance. And he's again, we said it earlier, he still looks bright in a poor performing team. So that was my puzzling look and my debate with myself. Would Liam Delap suit a Newcastle shirt?
Well, thank you very much for giving us a little insight into your brain there, Joey. Sounds very interesting, the conversations that you have with yourself sometimes. Apparently, there's also been another goal in the Winchester game. Might have gone Winchester's way, but we're able to see that on the screen now. Brilliant header by the looks of it there for Winchester City in their fight for promotion. So as far as I'm aware, a win for Winchester means that they will secure their place in the Southern Premier Division for next season. Good little goal there.
Instant replay.
Scenes at Winchester City by the looks of it there. So really good, like I say, in their fight for survival in
Goal! It is Newcastle 2, Ipswich 0, and it is not the most likely of goal scorers. It is Dan Burn popping up at the back post to make it 2-0. It's come from a corner, as you would possibly expect, worked short and stood up towards the back post, where Dan Burn, rising above everyone else, using all 6'7" of that frame to just essentially power it home past the goalkeeper. It was Joe Willock that put the cross in. It's a lovely ball. He just stands it up, and there is Dan Burn to knock home. Newcastle 2, Ipswich 0.
Very good. And Jamie, you look like something's going on in your game over there?
Yes, there's a goal, and it's Jørgen Strand Larsen. It's Wolves 2-0. Very simply, just the ball's been out on the left. Eight Nori and Cunha again, and then Cunha just plays the most simple ball through to Strand Larsen, and he tucks it bottom left. I mean, the celebration looked like he'd done something outrageous. He had his head in his hands, but it's the most simple of finishes.
Well, it looks like a big chance there for, a big goal there for Wolves in that game against Leicester. Leicester, of course, already relegated from the Premier League. We can now, I believe, cross to St Mary's Stadium, where our not-so-secret agent at this time, Chloe Geddes, is there. Apparently a big chance, but for who?
Adama Traore has just kept the ball. He's dribbled all the way to the edge of the box. Don't know how he still got it. Saints can't live with him. But he's... Oh, God. I don't... Referee's finally given a foul to Saints. That's what the cheers that's about, because we've had so many calls, he hasn't given them any. But Fulham have just hit the post, and it hit back on Aaron Ramsdale, and then it went out for a corner. It should be 1-1, really. I don't know who had a shot.
Atmosphere clearly seeming quite positive over there at St Mary's Stadium, despite that big chance for Fulham, but Southampton still winning, and of course those 3 points put them 3 points clear of Derby County's record worst Premier League season points tally from 2008 of that 11-point mark. In the Championship, a goal that's just gone in. Blackburn have just equalised against Watford in that mid-table game. Those big games at the bottom of the table as Cardiff take host West Brom. Cardiff still 0-0 there. Hull against Derby, that's also still 0-0, and Middlesbrough against Norwich, no goals there, the only goalless games in the Championship. Freddie Kilby, I feel like we haven't been over to you in a while. Any change in the situation in the National League South?
There's not been a change in the situation for the title race, but there's two teams that are just not giving up on this challenge. Worthing have gone 3-0 up against Enfield Town. Now, despite being a point behind both Torquay and Truro City, they're clearly still all guns blazing in that game. But Enfield Town will certainly be thanking Truro City for beating their relegation rivals St Albans City to keep them in that relegation spot. And Eastbourne Borough have gone 3-0 up against Weston-super-Mare, so it's clear to see why these teams are towards the top of the table. All guns blazing, scoring goals left, right and centre. But unfortunately, only 2 of them can get promotion and only 1 of them can win the title. So we shall see what happens over the course of those playoffs.
But at the moment, still Truro sitting top of the table.
Yep, that is correct. Truro are still winning 4-1, so they would win the title if it stays that way.
Brilliant, thank you very much for that interesting update there, Freddie Kilby. Freddie Dorman, any updates from that 1-1 game at the Amex?
Just had 2 substitutions for Brighton. Quite strange ones, to be honest, though. It's Karo Matoma and Yakuba Minter coming on, 2 pacey, very direct wingers. But for Solly March and Simon Adingra, who I thought had been absolutely excellent so far, especially in this second half. Down this left-hand side, he's been tricky, direct. He's caused Speedo some big problems. But Herzl has decided to take him off. But we know what Matoma and Minter can do. Very, very adept attacking options, but it looks like they're going to try and find a winner in this game. But we are 62 minutes in. Brighton 1, West Ham 1.
Is it still looking all Newcastle in your game, Joey?
Yeah, it's just sort of going through the motions, I think, now, and Ipswich almost doing what you would do in this situation and just looking to do a bit of damage limitation. No changes as of yet. I think that'll be something that comes soon. I think Newcastle know that in their fight for Europe, they're going to have bigger games and probably tougher ones too. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a few of their players maybe get brought off in the next 10-15 minutes or so. But yeah, still all Newcastle.
That scoreline there, of course, means that Ipswich will be relegated from the Premier League as of this afternoon if Newcastle beats them. Another goal in League One to bring you Crawley now 2-0 up against Northampton. No other goals going in so far across the football pyramid, apart from Yeovil are now 2-1 down against Sutton. They did have that 1-0 lead, but now Sutton lead by 2-1. Jamie Somerville, any updates from Molyneux that you can bring us?
Nothing really. It's just a couple of cards flying about. I think Leicester are getting restless and knowing that they're already down. And it's really playing into the momentum that Wolves have picked up the last few games. So it was Casey McAteer got booked for a foul in his own half. And it's basically just been kind of that fight in the middle at the moment. Yeah, and that's it.
That's it. Thank you very much for that update there. Jamie, any more goals to bring you from the football pyramid that I can see? No, not as of yet, but... And I don't think any cards have been added to that red card tally yet either. I was hoping we could play this game again at the end, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be any changes so far. Goal to bring you in League 2. Chesterfield are now 2-1 up against Morecambe. I can also believe we can go back to a game in the National League South where Jamie Olashinsky is there to bring us updates of Chippenham against Taunton. Jamie, have the tides turned for Chippenham?
The tides have turned from bad to worse to even worse to Chippenham Town fans do not want to be here because it's currently Chippenham Town 0, Hornchurch 4. They gave the ball away, Chippenham did, and the midway through their own half, Freddie Grant uncharacteristically giving the ball away, and Charlie Pegram just basically waltzed on through, chipped the ball over the top of Will Henry, and Hornchurch are happy and leading 4-0. Chippenham responded with a triple change, bringing on 3 young players, taking off some of the more experienced ones, so the next half an hour or so is going to be a little bit more open. Chippenham did just have a shot on goal, but it was flagged as offside before they could even get there. So it's not a happy afternoon to be a Bluebird. Chippenham Town 0, Hornchurch 4.
Thank you very much for that, Jamie. Just to bring you some other news from across the football pyramid, of course, that win for Doncaster in the 12:30 kickoff against Bradford means that they are promoted to League One. That was a 2-1 victory with Bradford also down to 10 men, but a point would have been enough if Walsall failed to win against Accrington Stanley, but of course it doesn't matter. Another goal in League Two as well. Gillingham 1, Swindon 2. Swindon equalising there against the Gills. And in the Championship, those 2 games for Cardiff against West Brom and Hull against Derby are still 0-0. So all very much so up in the air at the bottom of the Championship. Another goal to bring you in League One as well. Barnsley 0, Shrewsbury 2. Shrewsbury doubling their lead in that clash in League One. Freddie, you seem to be giving little moves and shakes. Does that mean something's going on over in the National League? Any sign of Truro falling off that top spot?
No, there's no signs of goals that impact the top spots, to be honest, Millie. But, you know, as I mentioned, Averley had 2 red cards, and that has come back to bite them, as Jesse Nwabwezi has equalised for Bath City, so he's punished them there. Slough have gone 1-0 up against Hampton and Richmond. That was really, to be honest, a nothing game. Slough, I think it was 17th, and Hampton and Richmond were 18th. So, again, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Welling have equalised against Salisbury, so it does impact the bottom of the table a little bit, but it's still St Albans City that take up that last relegation spot. So Salisbury should be safe, even if they do draw that game.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll come back to you soon, Freddie, just in case anything changes. Has anything changed in that West Ham game? Freddie, any more substitutions being made by Graham Potter or Fabian Hurtzler?
No substitutions since, but it is West Ham that are a bit more in the game. They're getting on top a bit. Brighton are struggling to get hold of the ball, but neither of the teams have tested either of the goalkeepers really in this second half. Brighton currently have the ball sort of just in the middle of the pitch, trying to find a way through the 5 at the back that West Ham are putting up, but it just seems comfortable for both teams, to be honest, so still 1-1.
What was that sigh there for, Joey?
It's a sigh because that is the 3rd time this afternoon that Ipswich have cleared one off the line, and this time it is former Norwich man Ben Godfrey, obviously making the switch across East Anglia, now in a Blues shirt. And it was Dan Burn again, possibly looking to double his tally for the day. To be honest, he won the header, and it was one of those that looked like it was going over, and it kept coming down, and it kept coming down just under the crossbar, only for Ben Godfrey just to flick it back over at the bar. So a Newcastle corner, Newcastle pressure, and it's relegation, 2-0.
Thank you very much, Joey. Peterborough have missed a penalty to go 2-1 up against Bolton, and Colchester have got a consolation goal against Salford. So the scoreline there is Salford 4, Colchester 1. No other goals to bring you up to date with other than that penalty miss and that Salford goal. But Jamie Somerville, any more action at Molineux to bring?
No more difference. I mean, I think this game's just shown, as I said earlier, it's a Strand Larsen and Cunha show. Cunha, I mean, we were talking about auditions earlier. There's no way Cunha's going to Leicester, but the rest of the world are going to be watching this match knowing that this could be one of his last 5 games left of the season, I think, and this could be one of the last for Cunha. A couple of players in this squad, to be honest, like we were talking about with Bournemouth, Ait Nouri, Cunha, Strand Larsen, Andre, João Gomez. I think, as I mentioned, the smart recruitment of Wolves could hopefully replace those players, but they could be looking at the relegation losing these key players because the game is solely being won by Cunha and Strand Larsen right now.
That's for sure. Has there been any action in the Southern Premier Division for Winchester, Nathan Rawlings? Any updates to bring us?
Yep. As it stands, still 1-1 here, 70 minutes in, still very, very end-to-end. The crowd's gone a little bit silent. You can cut the tension with a knife. The 2 sets of fans, almost night and day, in complete opposites. You've got the Taunton guys, particularly the Taunton media guys, to my left here, having a laugh and a joke, making a few puns, enjoying their day. And on the other side, the Winchester fans pooing their pants a little bit, I must admit. It's getting closer and closer to that time. Winchester City still need that vital goal in order to stay up and survive. Winchester City having the chances, not being able to take them away. It's going to be an interesting final 20 minutes or so. Still 1-1 here.
Nathan Rawlings, if you can still hear me, is there any sort of extra atmosphere going on at the Winchester Stadium? Have they sort of put on any events to try and get the fans geared up for this sort of relegation tie?
Yep, that is correct. The Winchester City media team have done a great sort of initiatives there to get the fans and players involved. The players put out a lovely video during the Winchester fans on, cheering them on, getting them involved and trying to encourage them to come down to the game. The players also requested one from the fans to motivate them and push them over the line to try and keep them up to survival. Equally, deals for tickets and stuff was also a big thing they did. At the game today, both sets of fans have come with a drum. Seems a bit of a drum off as well. The atmosphere is great. Oh, the ball goes into the box there, but it's saved easily. Yeah, nice kind of great atmosphere. Winchester City have done all they can to try and get their team involved and their fans involved. They're going to need them now because, as it stands, as I said, still in the relegation zone.
Much for that, Nathan Rawlings. We'll come back to you for any more updates shortly, I'm sure. Going a little bit further down the football pyramid now, we can now cross to Ollie Price, who's live at Fareham Town versus Andover New Street in the Wessex playoff final. Ollie, just tell me a little bit about what's at stake for Fareham, who are of course 2-0 up today. What league are they, bidding for a place to go up to, and how does that impact, a non-league side?
We're actually going to try hopefully some lovely sausage rolls here after I get in the queue. It's been a lovely day out here at Fareham. I'm actually really enjoying myself. The sun has been beautiful. It's a lovely ground. We just, and you can see, if you have a little look, there are so many people just queuing, just watching the football. It's been such a lovely experience to be able to come down here and just, have a good time. Right, we can now order some sausage rolls. Hiya, you all right? Sorry. So can I get some sausage rolls, please? Sausage rolls? Oh, yeah. Yeah. There we are. I'm really excited. People have told me around the club the sausage rolls are mwah, so very excited. Just being bagged up now. And do you know what? I definitely will come here again. I've loved every second I've been here. Thank you. So can you just say, sorry, just quick, I'm sorry. What do you love about the club here? Obviously you work here, what's kind of the feeling around the club right now?
It's very, wholesome. It feels like everyone's really nice to each other. It's just a really nice club. It's really nice.
Perfect, thank you so much. And how much was that, sorry? £2. It's an absolute bargain. So we'll get them. Whoop, it's taking a minute, don't worry. And I've just paid for a lovely sausage roll. We're going to eat that as soon as I can. Thank you so much. And we'll go back to you so I can actually finish this sausage roll.
Oh, well, I look forward to hearing that review of the sausage roll a little bit later on, Ollie. And £2, I must say that's an absolute bargain. But we have had some action at Molineux. Jamie Somerville, what more can you tell us? Has there been a goal for either side?
It's a penalty, and Jamie Vardy's got the ball currently. It all started with a loss of the ball outside the Wolves box, about 30 yards out. And the ball to Vardy did look off, but Bilal El Khanous managed to slip it straight through the defence. Vardy ran onto it. He's still got the pace. Took it around the keeper. It had gone way too far, but he knocked his leg into Jose Sarr, and the ref. There was no need for VAR. Straight to the penalty, and Jose Sarr's taking his time to get on his line, to get ready. But Vardy is staring that ball down like he wants it. And as we're waiting, Vardy runs up, and Jose Sarr saved it.
Oh,
it's still 2-0 to Wolverhampton Wanderers.
So no consolation goal for Leicester quite yet. Like I've mentioned, it just keeps getting from bad to worse for them after being relegated from the Premier League. Another side that it keeps, by the sounds of it, looking like getting from bad to worse for is Chippenham Town. Jamie, has there been any slight upturn for them? Is it all still Taunton? Or Hornchurch, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Millie. Chippenham have just had a shot in the box. The Gravatas up this one. Oh, it's hit the crossbar. You mentioned that it was getting from bad to worse. The last 10 minutes, it has been all Chippenham Town. Leon Gravatas, since coming on after the fourth goal, has been doing absolutely everything. And just in front of me on this left-hand side, he had a shot saved from Mason Terry moments ago, and he has just rattled the crossbar. I don't think Chippenham Town are going to pull it back, but they can certainly help the goal difference. Hornchurch 4, Chippenham Town 0.
If you're still there and you can still hear me, do you want to tell me a little bit about sort of the atmosphere that happens on a Chippenham Town match day? I mean, I know you're there pretty much week in, week out. So is there a sort of a core group of fans that sort of attend every week?
Yeah, thank you, Millie. There's a core kind of group of like 20 or 30 that go to away. And to be fair, that group of people are a lot of the time the group of people that help out. There's James, the security guard. There's Paul, the health and safety guy. And there's loads of fans that help out in the media team as well. So there's a big old group of us, I call them that. And members of staff at the club, people on the volunteers, are all the supporters as well. We've got a big attendance here today. It hasn't quite been read out yet, but as you can see behind me. And all four corners of the ground are pretty much full as well. So we might be hitting nearly 1,000 today. I think Chippenham's average attendance is about 800 or so. So we should be doing pretty well today. But yeah, it's a community club, and it's a club that I'm happy to say I'm going to be a part of as a full-time member of staff next year. So if you do get yourself down to Chippenham Town, you'll be seeing me a lot often.
Very good, Jamie. Well, very good to hear, and congratulations on the new job, I must add. So well done for that. We're going to go straight back to the Premier League now. I believe there's been another goal in Southampton against Fulham at St Mary's Stadium. Chloe Geddes, our girl in the stands there. What way has it gone?
We've just been jinxed by my dad. He said, Southampton aren't going to finish bottom here. We're going to finish above Leicester. Smith Rowe was just scored. I wasn't watching it. I don't know what happened, but it floated into the back of the net. It was rubbish defending. We really let ourselves down here. But we thank Dad for saying we're not going to finish bottom and jinxing us. Brilliant. Smith Rowe's just come on as well. It took a big deflection off the Bednarak. But Rich is looking at the positives. He just said, I've got 1-1 on my Super 6.
Clearly all the blame lies for that Fulham equaliser on Big Rich there. So every Southampton fan, I'm sure, is very pleased with Chloe Geddes' dad right now. Freddie Dorman, looking at your game, is it looking like we're coming towards the end? Is it tipping either way?
As you've literally just come to, I was going to say it's been a really boring and lacklustre second half. But West Ham have just had one cleared off the line, a really acrobatic clearance from the defender. The linesman has put his flag up, so it is offside. But the last 10-20 minutes or so have been really poor from both sides. No one has created a chance. Both teams look quite comfortable with a draw. And we are getting to that point of the season where both teams don't have too much to play for. But Brighton do have still faint hopes of Europe, so they want to try and get themselves a goal. But right now, very boring, and it's still 1-1.
Freddie, what are you jotting down over there? Any action over in National League South?
Well, you mentioned a shot game for red cards. I hope there's not a shot game for goals, because I'll be stumbling out of this building. I was going to mention there was a bloodshed at Dave Bryant Stadium in Enfield. It was Worthing 4, Enfield Town 0. But Enfield Town clawed a goal back through Kean Dillon. Hemel Hempstead have grabbed a goal back against Torquay United, but it's still Torquay United 2, leading 2-1 there. We've got some more goals. Dorking Wanderers scored against Chippenham, so it's 1-0 to them. Tonbridge Angels 1, Bournemouth 3, Farnborough 2, Maidstone 1, Weymouth 1, Chelmsford City 5. I don't know what's got into them since they went goal down, but fair play to them. They're not giving up there. And Aveley, who are down to 9 men, are now 2-1 up against Bath City, so they might be gone. And with a really low points total, they were on 21 points coming into this game. But they're not going down without a fight, so fair play to them. But it's still not to rescue them. And as I was just speaking, Torquay United are now 4-1 up against Hemel Hempstead. So I've missed quite a lot of action there speaking to you, but fair play to them. They're not going down without a fight either. And I'm just checking what that means for the table, because that's quite a lot of goals over there. It looks like Truro will still win the league by, I don't think it would be still 3 goals. Must be 2 goals, I reckon. The table's not just updated yet.
So Torquay closing in?
Torquay are closing in, but I think it might be a bit too little too late, as Truro City still look like the front runners for that National League South title.
Thank you very much, Freddie. An important goal, again, going in the Championship. It's Preston 0, Plymouth 2. So although we mentioned too little too late, Plymouth's another team who it might be too little too late for. Despite their win, it still leaves them in the relegation zone of the Championship. Going to rattle through some more scores for you now as we're looking at the Championship scorelines. Of course, in those early kickoffs, it was Luton 1, Coventry 0 and QPR 0, Burnley 5. In the game between Blackburn and Watford, that is currently 2-1 to Blackburn in the 80th minute, and Cardiff West Brom is still 0-0, as is Hull against Derby and Middlesbrough against Norwich. Millwall still 1-0 up against Swansea, and Oxford United, who host Sunderland, are also leading that game 2-0. Preston 0, Plymouth 2, as I just mentioned, and it hasn't changed since the first half for Sheffield Wednesday and Portsmouth. It is Wednesday 1, Pompey 1. Looking at the League 2 scores, Bristol Rovers, of course, losing 2-0 to Reading in that 12:30 kickoff, and Leyton Orient beating Wycombe 1-0. 83rd minute for Barnsley against Shrewsbury. Barnsley 1, Shrewsbury 2. Burton 1, Cambridge 0. Crawley 2, Northampton 0. Exeter 2, Huddersfield 1. Peterborough 1, Bolton 1, so all even there, and Stockport are leading Lincoln 3-2, and Wigan 1, Blackpool 1. We can now cross back live to Winchester City in the Southern Premier Division as they are playing Taunton. Really key game in that relegation battle there. Any goals for you to update us on, Nathan Rawlings?
Yeah, it is all kicking off here at the Charters Community Stadium. The score remains level at 1-1, but it's been an absolute roller coaster of emotions as it stands. Tiverton were winning, meaning that Winchester City were in the relegation zone with a draw here at Taunton. However, Marlow then equalised, and there was a massive roar that came through the stadium, as it meant that Winchester City were staying up if Marlow equalised. Very shortly after, though, it went back down to normal as Tiverton took the lead once again. So it's been up and down for Winch. A draw may be enough, it may not. It'll be interesting to see. The fans willing their team along. The game continues to be extremely end-to-end, a little bit feisty, perhaps some frustration creeping in for the Winchester players. It should be an exciting game as there's a foul just on the edge of the box there. Yep, still 1-1 here with about 10 minutes to go.
Thank you very much, Nathan Rawlings. Getting really down to crunch time there in the Southern Premier Division, but we've had 2 more goals in the Premier League since we last heard during that update. We'll start with you, Freddie Dorman. Who has it gone to in Brighton against West Ham?
It's gone to West Ham and it's 2-1 to the visitors. Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been brilliant all game. He's put a wicked ball into the box, and it's Thomas Soucek there at the back post. The big 6'3", I believe he is, at the back post to head it home to give West Ham the lead. Against the runner play, you could argue, as neither team have had really any attacks on goal. But yeah, 2-1 to West Ham.
And Joey, have Ipswich found a consolation, or is it all still Newcastle at St James's Park?
It is all still Newcastle, and that scoreline now reads Newcastle 3, Ipswich 0. I mean, since you last came to, there's been a few changes as well. Isaac and Murphy have both come off, and one of those that's come on is William Asula, who is a very popular man amongst the Newcastle fans, and it is him that has headed home for Newcastle's third. Very simple ball in from the corner, an outswinger from Kieran Trippier. Asula rises, headed it back towards the direction it came in, over Palmer's outstretched hand and into the corner. Newcastle 3, Ipswich 0.
Ipswich, of course, pretty much now relegated unless they can pull off a miracle in the last sort of 9 minutes of that game at St James's Park. Jamie Somerville, has there been any action since that penalty miss for Jamie Vardy at Molineux?
It's just been all Wolves again. I think the last 3 key Wolves attacks have resulted in the same thing. Leicester try and play their football. They can't. They lose the ball. It goes to Cunha. He's just better than everyone else on the pitch, and then it causes a Leicester yellow. The latest of those was Ollie Skipp, which I'm not too sure whether this Leicester defence can... Even though Cunha's been playing the whole game, Skipp came on at half-time, he still had the beating of him. But it's all been Cunha. Same game, same story, basically.
Where do you see a player like Cunha going next season if he is to make that move to another Premier League or even European club?
I think there's room for him at both Manchester United and Arsenal. I think those are the 2 destinations. I think Man United seem to be the key one at the moment. Fabrizio Romano reported advanced talks between the player and the club. I think Arsenal could do with an attacking player with that sort of ability rather than a makeshift player like Marino or even using Kai Havertz. But I think if you've got the money, there is a few players out there who could fill that sort of gap for a Manchester United or an Arsenal. I think those are the 2 key big teams at the moment who are looking for that kind of signing that would fill the biggest hole in the team.
Yeah, no, completely. I completely agree with that there. Freddie, you're looking like maybe something's happening over in the National League South. Is it still all Truro at the top?
Well, it is, but St Albans City have grabbed another goal back. It's now 4-2 in that game, and as I was looking at those results, Chelmsford City are now 6-1 up, so I'd like to take you up on a 9-goal bet there. And I'd like to just apologise to Aveley fans as well. I've not got my glasses on, so I read my notes wrong. It weren't actually 21 points, it was 31 points they came into this fixture with, and they're now above... Yeah. Sorry, let me just check who they're...
It's all right, while you check that, we can quickly go to Jamie Oleshinsky, who's at another game in the National League South, Chippenham against Hornchurch. Jamie, have Chippenham managed to get one back?
Yep. Yes, well, thank you, Millie. This game has really fizzled out into nothing. Chippenham are going to put a cross into the box that is high, not very handsome, and not very pretty. It's going to come out on the far side, but Chippenham have now got the ball on the edge of the box, so they'll come back to you to say nothing's happened. And of course, in the end, nothing has happened. But really, the only thing that people around the ground at the minute are looking for is their phones to make sure Bath City are losing. And last time I checked, they were still losing to 10-man bottom of the league 9-man bottom of the league, Averley, so I'll get that in there. But that's really all anybody at the Thornbury Surfacing Stadium wearing blue today is thinking of. Shot comes in from Tyree Johnson, and I've touched it, and I've kicked it over to him. Chippenham Town. Game fizzling out into nothingness. Chippenham losing 4-0 to Hornchurch.
Goal. Oh, Freddie Kilby's had a goal. Who's it for, Freddie?
Truro City won't let me rest here. They're now 5-2 up against St Albans City as they look to claim that National League South title. And I've just checked my notes. It's Averley are now above the 6-1 scoreline victims Weymouth. So
very good.
Weymouth will be bottom, but it's not enough for Averley to save themselves. But yeah, now Truro are now 5-2 up against St Albans City, and they look the most likely to claim that title that everyone has been wanting.
No, I can imagine. Thank you very much for that update there, Freddie. A big goal as well in the Championship. Derby have gone 1-0 up away to Hull. That means a lot for the Championship relegation zone as well. It puts Hull in that dreaded bottom 3 spot, and Derby lift out of it even above Preston North End with those 3 points. So currently Hull sit in the relegation zone and Derby out of it after that fairly late goal at the MKM Stadium. So Hull 0, Derby 1 there. No other goals so far to bring you in the latest Premier League games, although if we're looking down at League 2, Tranmere 2-0 up against Crewe, which shifts some things down in the relegation zone in that league. And Rochdale just gone 5-1 up against Hartlepool in the National League as well. We're going to come back to you, Freddie Dorman. Any updates to bring us? Is it swinging again more to West Ham or to Brighton, or have West Ham stayed on top since getting that second goal?
Yeah, Brighton, they're definitely knocking on the door now. West Ham have brought on Valimir Kufal to try and shore things up at the back. It's now pretty much everyone behind the ball, but Brighton really pressing. And as I've said that, they've literally scored as you've come to me. A ball in towards the back post. Hinsworth's headed it back across, I believe, and it's Matoma there who's come off the bench to make it 2-2. And it's going to be a very exciting end to this game. So Brighton 2, West Ham 2.
Point apiece there so far at the Amex Stadium. Joey, any extra action at St James's Park?
I've actually got a goal, and once again, it's that man, Mateus Cunha's. He's involved. It wasn't his goal. It was Rodrigo Gomez, but the ball comes to him. He's coming from probably 30 yards out, dribbles to the edge of the box, and plays probably one of the most simple balls across to Rodrigo Gomez. He's quicker than Voetface, and he slips it into the bottom left corner. So that is 1 goal and 2 assists for Mateus Cunha today. Wow,
he's certainly a man in fine form as of today. Another goal down in the National League. York City 2-0 up now against Solihull Moors. No games quite reached full time from our 3 o'clock kickoffs yet, but from the 12:30s and the 1 p.m. kickoffs we have had in the Premier League, it was Chelsea 1, Everton 0, Luton 1, Coventry 0, QPR 0, Burnley 5, Bristol Rovers 0, Reading 2, Leyton Orient 1, Wickham 0. AFC Wimbledon 0, Port Vale 2, Doncaster 2, Bradford 1, and Harrogate 1, Notts County 3, and a little bit closer to home in the National League, it finished Woking 2, Eastleigh 2 in those earlier kickoffs. Don't forget, there's also a big game in the FA Cup, a semi-final between Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. Crystal Palace, of course, not been to Wembley in a very long time, so it will be a very big occasion for Crystal Palace fans as well as the Villa fans. Of course, the next semi-final to come is Manchester City as they take on Nottingham Forest. League 1, another goal just gone in. Exeter 3, Huddersfield 1, and in League 2 it's Barrow 3 and Bromley have just got an equaliser to make it 3-3. Is it coming close to the end of any of those Premier League ties yet, gentlemen? What's the added time situations looking like?
3 minutes added on in my game. We're currently 2 minutes in, but Brighton have a corner, so we'll see if that leads to a last-minute winner.
Joey, are we still in normal time? Or
we are still in normal time. A couple of minutes to go before any additional. I should say, good news for any Newcastle fans tuning in is that Sven Botman is back onto the pitch after quite a long period out of injury, and that also looks like probably one of the biggest cheers of the day.
What a goal! Has the side won it then, Freddie? What's the situation at the Amex?
They scored a screamer to take the lead, and they've scored another screamer to take the win. Brighton 3, West Ham 2. Carlos Baleba from the middle of the park. Again, no one around him. He had so much time and space. He just thought, I'm going to hit this. And it is flown into the bottom left-hand corner. Nothing Areola could have done. They've jumped into the fans in the stands. They're going mental. And it looks like Brighton are going to come away with a win. So Brighton 3, West Ham 2.
And what a huge goal that is in their battle for Europe as well, Freddie.
Massive, massive. That takes them, I think, well, depending on results later on, up to about 6th or 7th, sorry. And yeah, that definitely keeps their hopes alive.
I mean, of course, it could be all the way down to 8th to get to a European football spot so far this season. So, scenes at Brighton West Ham is one word to put it. It looks like as well there's been a goal at Southampton. Fulham just getting one back at the death. So the score there is Southampton 1, Fulham 2, and I'm sure Chloe Geddes will bring us some quite dire reactions from the stands at St Mary's Stadium. Freddie, you pull the new. What's going on in the National League South?
Well, as we know, Truro City are leading with a 2-goal difference, but Torquay and Hemel Hempstead, it's only in the 86th minute, and Hemel Hempstead have just got a red card, so whether or not they can concede 2 more goals to see perhaps Torquay win the league, I don't know.
Well, never say never.
Very dramatic last few minutes in these fixtures in the National League South, so all to watch here. It's going to be hopefully a crazy one.
We've had a game finish in League One. It's finished Crawley 3, Northampton 0, and no games finished anywhere else as of yet. Jamie, does it look like it's going to be a very comfortable Wolves win at Molineux? No chance of Leicester even coming back in the final minutes?
I think this game could be played for another 90 minutes. I don't think Leicester have got a goal in it. We just saw another attack. Last week's goal scorer Pablo Sarabia had a chance. It was blocked and he's on the corner at the moment. But just as we entered the 90th minute, there was not 1 minute, even when the penalty, I wasn't confident that the ball was going to be put in the back of the net by a Leicester player unless there was an own goal. And there's a bit of a scramble here, but Leicester clear it from the corner. So it's still 3-0 Wolves.
Thank you very much. And we've had full time in the Brighton game. Give me a
time. Brighton 3, West Ham 2. Brighton took the lead with a sensational strike from Ayari. West Ham, they came back twice to take it to 2-2. It looked like it was going to end in a draw. But Carlos Baleba, in the very last minute of the game, scored an absolute screamer, curling it into the bottom left-hand corner to give his side the lead and their chances of Europe still in contention. So yeah, Brighton 3, West Ham 2.
What are the vibes looking like for that Brighton squad on the pitch at the moment?
They are buzzing. Everyone ran over and jumped on Carlos Baleba. Hertzler was cheering to the crowd. Everyone is absolutely buzzing there. But yeah, really good result for Brighton.
Scenes there. It's finished Cardiff 0, West Brom 0 in the Championship. So a point gained for Cardiff, who are of course scrapping at the bottom for relegation there. Also finished Oxford 2, Sunderland 0 in the Championship, and Millwall is finished at the Den 1-0 to them. Any other games finished? Barnsley and Shrewsbury have finished 1-2. That scoreline. Crawley, the game has finished 3-0 against Northampton. And it might be full time as well in the Wessex League playoff final between Fareham and Andover New Street. Ollie, have we got some happy Fareham Town fans there at the stadium who are really excited about their side's promotion?
And it's us full time. Fareham 2, Andover 1. It's been a great game and a great day out. You can see how many fans they've been today. Yeah, get it! Come on! And yeah, it's been an absolutely amazing day here at Fareham. And do you guys want to get it? Come on, do you want? No, you guys okay? Right. Guys, thank you. That's been Ollie Price. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you for the clarification of your name there, Ollie Price, and what a day that must be for those Fareham Town fans, clinching promotion to Step 3 of their tier of football. Really amazing stuff for the fans there at Fareham Town. Other full-time scores as we're looking across the leagues. Exeter have finished with a 3-1 lead against Huddersfield. Stockport 3, Lincoln 2 is the final score there, and Wigan 1, Blackpool 1 is the final score in League 1 so far. In League 2, it's so far Gillingham 1, Swindon 1. Gillingham have 2 players sent off, so really quite lucky to get a point out of that game there. And I'll tell you what we are going to do is once all the games are wrapped up, we're going to be playing the red card game again, because there have been a good few added in the final stages of all of these games so far this afternoon. Joey Rapley, have we had any sort of closing remarks between Newcastle and Ipswich, or does it look like it's going to be finishing dead on 3-0?
Yeah, it's just sort of going through the motions at the moment. Ipswich had a 5-minute resurgence where they actually put a few attacks together and threatened a bit, but the tempo's been taken out of the game again by Newcastle. And yeah, just closing in on full time now.
That'll be pretty much confirming Ipswich's relegation there from the Premier League after, you know, 2 back-to-back promotions. Incredible stuff, but back down to the Championship they go. Any scenes of Ed Sheeran crying in the stands?
Not yet. I'm sure he'll use any excuse to write a new album on it, and I'm sure it will be.
He's running out of maths symbols, though, isn't he?
He is running out of maths symbols, isn't he? So I'm sure he'll find maybe a literacy technique next time rather than numeracy.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you very much. We're going to now go back to the Southern Premier Division as Winchester are hosting Taunton in that very huge battle at the bottom of the table. Nathan Rawlings, what have you got for us? Any updates in terms of Winchester's survival?
Yep, the tension is building and building and building, and it's all come down to this. The score remains 1-1 here at the Charters Community Stadium. Tiverton have made it 3-1 against Marlow, but Sholing crucially have scored against Bracknell, which means Winchester need to score to stay up. There is about 2 minutes left to go. Some great chances for Winchester. A corner then, which keeper Luke Kearney came up for, bubbled around, could not be poked home, and Taunton cleared. The fans getting a little bit agitated, a little bit frustrated, a little bit anxious. It is all or nothing with about 30 seconds to go. Still remains 1-0. Goal kick. The fans are raging. All 11 players, including keeper Luke Kearney, are getting up there. As the ball goes forward, played towards the box, it is cleared away. And it's cleared there. As it stands, Winchester are still going down. As the ball is cleared once again. I mean, referee is looking at his watch. He's eyeing it up. Still not completely cleared. Winchester still have the ball. Taunton have the ball now, though, sadly.
Still playing at most games elsewhere in the Southern League as it stands.
And there's a foul there. Oh, this could be a huge free kick then, just in front of the Taunton dugout. Luke Kenny, the keeper, running up rapidly to get into that box. Probably the last kick of the game here. They played it short. Oh my God, what is going on? I'm sorry, I couldn't speak then for a minute. I was absolutely speechless watching that. The ball got played in then from the short free kick. It was bouncing around. Then the ball was flashing across the face of goal and went wide. Winchester do have a corner though. I don't know if you can hear the fans, but it is lively here. I can't hear much, I must admit. The fans are loud. This is possibly the last kick of the game. It's Jamie Barron with the corner from the right-hand side. They need a goal to keep their survival hopes alive. Oh, and it is dropped. Referee pointed for a goal kick. That could very well be it. This is absolute carnage. Apologies.
Another goal according to our man Jeff. Marlow score, Winchester will stay up.
Goal kick then for Taunton. Got to be about 30 seconds. Referee once again looking at his watch. Josh Gould to take this goal kick hard and long, you'd think. And I don't know if you heard that, but that is the final whistle. Winchester City are officially relegated from the Southern League Premier South. The players drop to their knees, shirts over faces. It's been a tough season, a long, hard season. And finally, then, it comes to an end. You have a look at the fans then on the pitch there. Suddenly got very quiet here as well. Fans, I mean, already beginning to pile out the stadium. A couple of players in tears, you'd think. It's, yeah, a heartbreaking moment for Winchester City. They've worked so hard to get this far. Got this new stadium, you know, worked very hard. There it is then. Yeah, works very hard to get this stadium. worked very hard to get this far, and it is the end of the road in the Southern League Premier South for Winchester City. They are officially relegated. Taunton then finish 8th as it stands. Tiverton stay up. Yep. The atmosphere. The Taunton fans are absolutely lively now, jumping up and down, banging their drum, kind of rubbing it in the Winch fans' faces, if you ask me. Winch fans and players absolutely devastated. I mean, a lot of them speechless, looking at me as I'm walking past. Officially relegated. Tiverton did get the win, which means they leapfrogged Winchester City. Swindon lost 4-0 as well, I believe, so they are officially relegated. Bracknell, I think, as it stands, have done just enough to stay up. Final score here, 1-1. Winchester City officially relegated. Thank you very much.
Devastating scenes there at the Charters Community Stadium for Winchester City as they're relegated from the Southern Premier Division South. Speaking of devastating as well, another really horrible last-minute result for Southampton, and Chloe Guedes can bring us up to speed with the atmosphere at full-time.
Fulham have just scored. 91 minutes gone. It's Saints' season. This is Saints' season in the whole.
Second goal, didn't we?
We don't get the second goal. We let them attack. Tyler Diblin lost that edge of the box. Every time Saints do substitutions, they're not up for it. Tyler Diblin, overpriced. Not 100 mil. He's like Matt Lettiz. He's lazy, but he hasn't got the ability to back it up. 92 minutes, 2-1 Fulham. This is Saints' season. We don't get the second goal. They box us in, and they score.
Thank you for bringing us that perspective and devastation there from the stands. Chloe Guedes has finished at full-time. Southampton 1, Fulham 2. Southampton, of course, firmly sat at the bottom, still level with Derby County's worst ever Premier League points tally. I'm going to presume it's all finished across our Premier League games this afternoon. Joey, Newcastle now leapfrog Chelsea to sit third in the Premier League table, of course, in those Champions League spots. I mean, as much as a devastating loss it was for Ipswich now that they're relegated, but a big result for Newcastle.
Yeah, just to repeat, Ipswich have obviously now been relegated to the Championship, so...
Don't smile too much about it.
Yeah, so that'll obviously be a bit of a sting for them. They spent lots of money in the summer and had quite a lot of faith in Kieran McKenna, so I think they were disappointed at quite how far off they were. Maybe not necessarily the relegation, of course they'll be gutted, but quite how far off they were is, like I mentioned, alarming. But as for Newcastle, couldn't really get much of a better afternoon. A couple of players back from injury, Eddie Howe back on the touchline, and a comfortable home victory. You look at their home form and you struggle to see any team actually go there and get a result there. So, if they can win their home games and pick something up away, I think we'll see them in the top 4 come the end of the season.
And Jamie, like we said, your game, a little bit of a nothing game, but it's going to be fantastic for Wolves' confidence, especially heading into next season with, the way that they seem to be finishing the season. Like you said, 6 wins is their record ever Premier League, sort of, how do you put it?
The winning streak. I'm looking at this. They're currently sat 13th with 12 wins in the Premier League, and 6 of those have came in their last 6. Just 6 games ago, they were on 23 points, and obviously going on that sort of average, that's less than a point a game that they were on, and that may not have given Ipswich much more hope, but they really have pulled away, and now they're sat above West Ham, Tottenham, Manchester United and Everton, currently sat 13th. And obviously Tottenham and Man United still have games to play, but Tottenham, even with a win, can't overtake Wolves. And just 6 game weeks ago, Tottenham would have been a few points clear, at least, of Wolves.
Looking at the Championship now, Cardiff getting just a draw today at West Brom is not going to be enough for their Championship survival hopes. They sit rock bottom of the Championship on 44 points, so nothing they can do in their final game of the season to save survival. Elsewhere in the Championship, it's finished at the Den between Millwall and Swansea, I believe. Billy and Diogo can give us a full-time update from the Den.
Result today here for Millwall. They beat Swansea 1-0. in a really tough game. Second half, Swansea threw everything they could at Millwall, but they just couldn't get past Jack Mark in goal. How did you think about that, Diogo?
Outstanding game, outstanding performance from Millwall. George Clark Evans with a man of the match performance. He pulled some outstanding saves today. He pulled a really good performance, and he is the key reason why Millwall have grabbed the 3 points today. Now they sit in 6th place with 66 points. It's looking really, really good for them.
Yeah, and Millwall are definitely celebrating hard. There's hundreds of fans across the pitch. Swansea fans aren't being quiet though. They are giving them a bit of stick, but you know, unbelievable performance today from Millwall.
Sounds like an unreal atmosphere as ever at Millwall's ground. Of course, one of the most iconic grounds in footballing history. We're going to come to you now, Freddie Kilby, for a final update on the situation in the National League South. Is it Truro that have been promoted to the National League?
It probably will be, Millie, but it's actually not over yet. I mean, Torquay United are still in the 101st minute of the game, but they're only 4-1 up. So as it stands, it will be Truro City that will win the National League South title, which will also mean that confirms St Albans City's relegation from the league. So they won't be in it next season. But it's still not over yet, unfortunately. It's still ongoing.
Well, let us know when everything's over, Freddie, and we will come back to you for that. Looking as well at the other relegation situations across the football pyramid. In League One, Shrewsbury, of course, already down on 33 points, and Cambridge United's relegation already confirmed as well, 38 points, not enough to get to Burton's points tally, who are 46, just above the relegation zone. In League Two as well, Carlisle looks like they won't be able to scrape survival in League Two. Morecambe, of course, on 36 points, already down, and Carlisle are 7 points behind Tranmere, who sit just above the relegation zone. So Carlisle and Morecambe down in League Two. Shrewsbury and Cambridge United's relegation already confirmed. Bristol Rovers sat on 43 points alongside Crawley as well in the relegation zone, but neither of those sides, of course, only 3 points behind Burton, who sit just above the relegation zone, but neither of those sides really goal difference wise, even if they win their final game of the season, look like they could survive. Freddie,
it's all over. It's all over. And it's officially Truro City have won the National League South title, the hotly contested one that was split between 3 points between 6 teams. And it has remained that way, actually, throughout this whole day. Each team winning their respective games. Eastbourne Borough won 3-0. Worthing won 5-1 against Enfield Town, who still remains safe due to that St Albans City result against Truro. Dorking won 2-0 against Chesham United. Tonbridge Angels lost 3-1 to Boreham Wood. Truro obviously beat St Albans 5-2, and Hemel Hempstead lost 4-1 to Torquay United. So Truro City win that National League South title, but the rest of the teams will have to lick their wounds and settle for a tough playoff contention. But that must be a very exciting one to watch, because from what the results I've seen today, I don't know how it can be split really between those teams. It must be one of the most exciting contests this season.
I mean, just to sum up with all of you guys, really, what would the emotions be like in a camp that's just been promoted? I mean, there's a huge step up between the National League South and the National League. You know, it will give the club so much money and so much more coverage in a sense as well.
Yeah, I think as well, when you go up in that fashion, when you're one of 6 on the last day that could be promoted, to go up in that fashion and have it, you know, like Freddie said, take it to the 101st minute in another game, waiting for things, that the elation, I think, will be, I mean, they must be on one big night out tonight. They would be a very good group of people as well. Ask what their favourite beer is after winning the Football League.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, that would be some party.
I can only imagine. And anything else to add from you, Freddie or Jamie?
I do want to say it's quite notable that all 6 teams involved all won their match. Like, they all did what they had to do. Their main result was at the mercy of someone else, and unfortunately, all those top six teams won. So they can't really be let down by themselves, just let down by the other teams also winning. And I think that kind of does help going into a playoff race. Obviously, 2nd and 3rd start in the semi-finals, so the quarter-finals will be Worthing, Boreham Wood, Dorking and Maidstone, and then the winners of those 2 games will play Torquay and Eastbourne. And I guess that kind of set up For example, Bournemouth winning 5 in a row, that's the sort of form you want to take into the playoffs.
Definitely.
Sorry, I just wanted to add, I don't think you can rule Maidstone United out either. I mean,
No.
sitting in that 7th spot, 79 points. They are certainly no pushovers, you know. I mean, they've got some tough competition, obviously. But, I mean, they could push for that second promotion spot, you know. They've done it before. They usually yo-yo between the National League and National League South. They know what it takes to win the playoff standings. So they would be an important one to watch, and you can certainly not rule them out of that
Definitely
playoff
not.
race there.
And we'll definitely try and keep you all updated on the playoff situation in the National League South on our website, solentsportsnews.com. But for now, that's all we have time for this afternoon. We've brought you a plethora of different goals from the Premier League all the way down to the Wessex League playoff final. So we just wanted to sign off and say good night. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.